6 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, 710 KNUS. It is Wednesday, May 8th. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, center, and sometimes crazy. It's going to be another beautiful day in the Mile High City, and we're gearing up for a whole morning of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab your coffee, Denver, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. We've got an entire morning jam-packed for you, and what could only be described as a right out of a romance novel. Stormy Daniels' testimony yesterday.
Oh, geez.
Now, the transcripts you actually can't get to till the next day. So they'll at about 9 o'clock tonight, New York State publishes the transcripts from yesterday's trial. But you can read the New York Times, the Washington Post, the CNN, and you know, it's what was that? 50 Shades of Grey kind of stuff. It was.
I like the fact that the judge had to step in and say, no, this is too salacious. There were times in which.
Yes, he did.
And then did you see afterwards the objection by Trump's lawyer saying, no, this is out of bounds and we declare a mistrial. And the judge is like, well, why weren't you objecting during the testimony?
More,
I'm curious why you have objections now when you didn't have objections during the actual conversation. So, it
was wild. And there's going to be a day off today. Tomorrow, they're going to be back at it. But we'll give you all those details. The Boy Scouts changing their name.
Big. That's big.
We'll get into that in the 7 o'clock hour. Julie Marie Blake's going to join us because Alliance Defending Freedom is suing the Biden administration. We're going to get to that in just a second. Also, Kristi Noem. It gets worse.
Wow. She just keeps digging the hole.
It gets worse.
I can't believe it.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. I couldn't believe these interviews that happened yesterday. Just stop.
And you've worked on campaigns.
Stop.
So
just.
You've been on that end of watching your candidates talking, going, oh no, yeah.
You remember Ken Buck in 2010, kind of putting his foot in his mouth. Romney did nothing compared to what's going on right now.
No,
and even Politico's like, this is really great for selling books. Horrible. Yeah. If you want to be the vice president of the United States.
Absolutely.
Horrible. And they went and talked to a whole bunch of ghostwriters and like, how did this happen? And who's around her? Anyways, Politico gets all the details. We'll dive into that. And then MTG and Mike Johnson.
They're not friends. They're not sending Christmas cards.
They're not, but they are meeting together. So what does MTG want? Michael Fields is also going to join us. He's pushing back on Lisa Frizzell. And in fact, Lisa had quite an interview yesterday with us, as well as some other stations. May not look as good as they're kind of initially proposing this
really?
Bill coming. Yeah, Michael Fields is going to have some words with us and for Lisa Frizzell in the 9 o'clock hour. Coming up in just a second, Julie Marie Blake is going to discuss how ADF is suing the Biden administration, what this is all about. Breaking news coming in this week from Alliance Defending Freedom and our friends over there. But let's check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Morning, Jeff and Billy. This is going to be one of those wild and wacky Wednesdays. I can tell already based on what you guys have said and what I'm about to talk about here. 36 and sunny in Denver, expecting highs in the upper 50s today, despite the freeze warnings last night and this morning. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, the legislative session ends today amid efforts to change how Tabor refunds work. The bill cleared the Senate Monday and was introduced to the House on Tuesday, where it's up for a vote. It aims to lower the state income tax rate instead of refunding money when returns are filed. This year, taxpayers got $800 back. That would only happen again in years with huge sums of excess revenue. Former President Trump's show trial got personal Tuesday as Stormy Daniels took the stand.
A very big day, a very revealing day. As you see, their case is totally falling apart. They have nothing on books and records, and even something that should bear very little relationship to the case. It's just a disaster for the DA, for the Soros-backed DA. It's a disaster.
Judge Janine on Fox News Channel.
The testimony that we heard today has absolutely nothing to do with the indictment. The testimony was irrelevant. It was prejudicial. It was not probative. It has nothing to do with how something was filed and how reimbursement to Cohen and whether it was correctly entered in the books. Period. End of the story.
And as Jeff said, they'll take a break today, thankfully. A Gallup poll showing that only 38% of U.S. adults have a great deal or fair amount of confidence in Joe Biden to make the right decisions about the economy. Not surprising when you listen to Biden's chief economic advisor, Jared Bernstein. If you haven't heard this, you need to check this out. His chief economic advisor.
Well, again, some of this stuff gets, some of the language that some of the language and concepts are just confusing. I mean, the government definitely prints money, and it definitely lends that money, which is why the government definitely prints money, and then it lends that money by selling bonds. Is that what they do? They sell bonds. Yeah, they sell bonds.
That is not a joke. I mean,
No,
he was
and
asked about borrowing money and printing money. And it goes on for a couple of minutes.
Right. And isn't he the chief economic advisor or something like that? He's on some economic advisory board to the president of the United States.
Yes. And I don't even think he majored in it in college. I think he was I can't remember, an art major or something.
It reminds me of when I didn't read the book in middle school and had to do the book report.
Yes. Jeff, could you please stand up? Mr. Hunt, what did you learn last night? It is absolutely incredible. You need to check it out. I'll play it later, maybe in a couple hours. Maybe I'll play it every hour. I don't know.
You could single-handedly win a presidential election just with that ad alone.
Right? Absolutely. All right. A groundbreaking exhibit is reopening its doors tomorrow. Governor Polis joined other leaders in Denver Tuesday to celebrate the newly redesigned Counterterrorism Education Learning Labs exhibit known as CEL. It addresses domestic and international security threats. Polis says hate has no home in Colorado, and CEL's dedication to educating and empowering people helps provide certainty and hope. Maybe they should include a huge flat screen video of Kamani James.
Zionists, they don't deserve to live comfortably, let alone Zionists don't deserve to live.
Okay, I just thought it'd be a good idea. I don't know. News brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills, locally owned and operated since 1954, online at lairfireplacepatio.com. Let's see. Difficult to find anything better than overtime playoff hockey. The Avs in Dallas last night, game one.
Tagliano zooms it ahead. Wood with speed. Wood drives in. Backhand. Score! Miles Wood, the hero in overtime.
Man, that is great stuff. The Avalanche over the Stars. They lead it 1-0 in the first game of the Western Conference semifinals. The Nuggets back at it on Friday. They'll try to turn it around in Minnesota against the T-Wolves. They are down 2-0. And let's see, Jamal Murray was fined, but he won't miss any games for throwing the towel and heating pad onto the floor during the game. All right, 32 in Broomfield, 33 in Littleton, and 36 in Denver. It's Hump Day with Jeff and Bill. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
The 710 5-day forecast, a freeze watch is in effect tonight through Wednesday morning. It'll be partly cloudy, brisk today and cool. Highs will be 55 to 60. There'll be a chance for a few isolated showers late today. Strong west winds. Windy tonight, cool, low to mid-30s. near freezing temperatures. Wednesday will be partly cloudy, breezy, a high near 60. Wednesday night, Thursday, and Friday, a chance of showers and a few thunderstorms and cool and unsettled. Meteorologist Don Day, 710 KNUS.
All right, our friends over at Alliance Defending Freedom doing God's work to defend the freedoms that we enjoy in this country after the Biden administration unlawfully published a rule that changes the federal definition of sex to include gender identity in healthcare. The state of Florida, along with the Catholic Medical Association as a co-party, sued the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services for requiring treatment of and payment for dangerous procedures. Joining us from Alliance Defending Freedom is Julie Marie Blake. She's a senior counsel for regulatory litigation. Give us the details of what this case is all about. Julie, thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Thanks so much for having me.
So
the Biden administration.
Go ahead, please. Dive right in.
Well, the Biden administration shouldn't force doctors to have to harm their patients, let alone force them to perform a lot of these dangerous, life-altering, so-called gender transition procedures. They can block puberty and remove healthy body parts. And we represent the Catholic Medical Association because our doctors simply want to heal. They don't want to harm their patients.
So how did we get to this place? There was a new rule that was adopted on Monday that forces medical professionals and insurance providers to perform or pay for harmful gender transition procedures or face severe financial consequences. This came from the Biden administration?
The Biden administration has grossly abused its power. I mean, they're claiming that it is sex discrimination for a doctor who, say, uses puberty blockers to treat precocious puberty, not to use puberty blockers to just block puberty altogether for someone who just wants to be the opposite sex or no sex at all. But that's simply not the case. Our doctors care for everybody. No matter how you identify, they're happy to help you with a broken bone, a sore throat, et cetera. But what they can't do is harm their patients.
Yeah, let's talk about the rule change. This came from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and they used, was it Title IX, in order to kind of force this rule change upon not just the state of Florida, but the entire country?
That's right. So Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, incorporates Title IX into healthcare. We all know what Title IX really is. It's about women's equal athletic opportunities, right? Women should be able to have their own opportunity to play sports and be champions. But in Title IX, they're saying that, well, if a man identifies as a woman, he gets to play on the female team, even if one male changes the playing field entirely. And now they're taking that idea and saying, well, so too in healthcare. If a man identifies as a woman, he gets, all these procedures and this access. And frankly, Congress never passed any of this. They've got no law that says they can do any of this.
Right. I can just see Neil Gorsuch loving this. If you don't know, Neil Gorsuch really does not like the executive rulemaking power that exists in our government right now, which is essentially, as Julie Marie Blake was just saying, there's no law passed. So the executive rulemaking power within the executive branch can look at this stuff and go, well, we're now going to adjust this word or that word and make this a new rule. So they use Title IX, and in light of Obamacare, if a man identifies as a woman now, so a trans woman, and wants medical procedures, doctors all over America, nurses all over America are going to be forced, hospitals, Catholic hospitals, for instance, are going to be forced to provide these types of services, even if it violates their conscience. Is that what's going to result here?
Well, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to say anyone who takes federal funding, so that's Medicaid, Medicare patients, has to adopt these new policies where, say, if you give out hormones for medical reasons to treat people, you also have to give them out now for gender transition reasons. And, our doctors aren't going to do that. Our doctors think there's no basis for any of this. And certainly they need to have upfront categorical exemptions for religious freedom and conscience.
So talk to us about the process. You've partnered with Florida as well as the Catholic Medical Association. Why is the state of Florida involved in this?
Well, the state of Florida has an employee health insurance plan, so they don't want to have to pay for it in that plan. But more importantly, the federal government's trying to displace state law. Florida has laws protecting children in particular from these dangerous, life-altering procedures. And the federal government's coming in and saying that law doesn't apply anymore.
When you say dangerous, life-altering procedures, what is that, and why is it dangerous?
Well, frankly, these procedures are experimental. You never have robust studies and data that go into the evidence about whether they were safe or not. And what's really important to know is that there are a lot of respected international voices that recognizing this has no proven benefits, cross-sex hormones or disrupting puberty. England's National Health Service in particular said that all the evidence is, quote, very low quality.
Now, if there are hospitals out there that are not faith-based, right, or doctors that are not faith-based and they have no problem providing these types of services, your lawsuit wouldn't ban them from being able to do that. You're just trying to protect the religious freedom rights of faith-based organizations.
Right. So we're trying to say that the federal government has no business mandating any of this.
Gotcha. So where does this go? In what court are you suing? Would this get to the U.S. Supreme Court? Are we looking at a future U.S. Supreme Court decision possibly out of this?
It could happen. I mean, we're feeling really confident. We sued in federal court in Florida, in Tampa, and we think the law is really clear and on our side. But, I think that'll be up to the Biden administration if they're willing to recognize what the law says and start caring and protecting children in this.
Now, Julie Marie Blake joining us from Alliance Defending Freedom. You outlined earlier that the issue being that if they didn't want to follow the purview, they would lose their federal funding. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay. Couldn't they, if they wanted to stand on their religious principles, couldn't they just forego the federal funding in theory? And then everybody would get what they wanted?
Well, that's exactly the unlawful choice that doctors shouldn't have to make. Right. If this goes into effect, particularly if there aren't exemptions and protections, a lot of Medicaid kids could lose their doctor. And a lot of doctors potentially are going to be unemployable. If every hospital in America takes Medicaid, Medicare patients, where's a hospitalist doctor supposed to work if they're ineligible to work at any hospital in America? None of that is something that should come to pass here. And even more importantly, no doctors anywhere should be forced to harm their patients, under the threat of losing their livelihood. It's really just turning, the entire medical system upside down by trying to interject the federal government into all of these patient care decisions.
All right. Well, Julie Marie Blake, we appreciate the great work that Alliance Defending Freedom is doing for people of all faith, defending their rights in this country and reminding, especially the Biden administration, what the Constitution is all about. We'll continue to follow this. Thank you for leading this effort and keep us updated. And thanks for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Thanks so much for having me.
Again, Alliance Defending Freedom leading the effort in state of Florida v. U.S. Department of Health and Human Services after the Biden administration unlawfully published a rule that changes the federal definition of sex to include gender identity in healthcare. The state of Florida, along with the Catholic Medical Association as a co-party, sued the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services for requiring treatment of and payment for dangerous procedures. If you want to learn more about Alliance Defending Freedom, you can go to adf.org. That's adf.org. To learn more about the great work of Alliance Defending Freedom. Actually, the website's adflegal.org, adflegal.org. All right, if you remember, they represent Jack Phillips as well in the fight here, as well as Lori Smith and they're good friends of the show. All right, when we come back, I want to dive into the Stormy Daniels trial update. Buckle up, and maybe if you have young ears around, we'll do our best. We will do our best, but this is the America we live in right now, where the president of the United States has got to answer, or former president of the United States got to answer for some weird stuff that was happening. All right, you're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. All right, yesterday was the Stormy Daniels testimony for the prosecution. There was some initial cross-examination. It's not going to continue today. They take Wednesdays off on this Manhattan so-called hush money trial, but this will kick back up on Thursday. So what happened yesterday? Basically, Stormy Daniels laid out the relationship she had with Donald Trump. I did not know this took place back in 2006.
Yeah.
Which was kind of amazing.
Yeah, it was when Barron was a little baby.
They're in Las Vegas. They're at a golf tournament that's taking place there, and they're promoting the pornography company that Stormy Daniels is a part of has kind of like bought one of the golf holes, right? And then the girls are out there and all that stuff. It's not a good situation to begin with.
No, not at all.
So they meet there and they have some words, and then they run into each other again at another kind of promotional booth area. And then Donald Trump asked his bodyguard to get her contact information and invite her to dinner. And her initial response is no.
Yeah. No, why would I go?
Right.
Yeah.
And it wasn't quite clear. And you have to rely on news coverage of this because the actual transcripts from yesterday's won't be out till tonight. But at some point, she ends up going to dinner. I mean, it wasn't real clear how she changed her mind or what caused her to do that. And when she goes to dinner, I
think I remember the conversation on that one. The conversation had to do with her publicist and or agent. She was like, no, don't even like him. Don't want to hang out with him. And his thing was, imagine the story you have to tell by just having dinner with Donald Trump. The idea that that's what it is. Later on, this is that, cocktail party story that you can tell. And again, a little bit of foreshadowing early on in that testimony based on that. I just thought that was interesting. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
It was, and it ended up becoming the story she'll tell for the rest of her life. So she ends up going to dinner, and he opens the door dressed in silk pajamas.
Yeah, so they aren't going to dinner.
Right.
He's not dressed, nor are they leaving where he's staying.
His room.
So we're not going anywhere. Yep. And that to me was the fact that she wandered in there and stayed was like, hang on, that should have been the very first red flag. That obviously, based on what he's wearing, you aren't going anywhere. You do not go into that room. You just don't.
And Donald Trump's well known for this. He doesn't drink. Yeah. So she doesn't drink. She never says that she consumed alcohol. She never felt drugged or anything like that. So she stayed, but it gets a little weird because they have dinner and then they end up doing it.
Yeah. And the way that she describes it is that she just goes to the bathroom and she comes out and he has prostrated him on the bed now in his boxers and t-shirt. So he's just like, okay, it's time to ride the ride.
And then she just dives in.
Well, again, but she gets paid to do that. So the idea that she did that versus anybody else is like, of anybody else that would be confronted with that situation and go, well, got to do it. You're like, well, this is the one person I think in this situation would go that you would expect. Yeah, they're probably gonna do this.
I don't want to get too much into the details of what happened there, but where it got weird and where the most contention built around yesterday's Trump trial was she kind of hinted that she didn't want it to happen. And she admitted, she wasn't drugged, she wasn't drunk, none of that stuff. So that's where it got really weird. And this is where the motion to dismiss came. Yeah. Because when she indicated that this was not consensual, it got into, and the argument made was this got into the kind of Harvey Weinstein case that recently got dismissed.
Yeah.
And the reason it got dismissed is you had salacious details that had nothing to do with the actual case itself being promoted by a witness. And basically, here's what the Trump campaign's argument was.
Yeah.
This is a campaign about falsified business records.
Yeah.
And you just had a witness before a jury basically strongly indicate that he was forcing himself on women or even engaging in sexual assault.
Yeah. And the thing for me is that Stormy Daniels is a paid actress who gets paid to stoop strangers. Now, even if they meet 5 minutes beforehand, that's okay. I get it. So the idea that she didn't want to, and that then crested over the idea of any sort of an assault at all, to me, doesn't fit because of her employment and how she behaved during that encounter. I'm not saying that it is okay to sexually assault either people that are professional dancers in those, clubs, or that are professional actresses. I'm just saying the expectation of her always wanting to enjoy and being excited about the act doesn't exist. So the idea that she's like, I didn't really want to, I bet we could come through a long list, and we are not going to on the show, of particular scenes and things that may have been uncomfortable based on, no, I'll stop right there. Still, not going to do that. It would have been funny, though. So the idea being that she makes these difficult choices and engages in things that she doesn't like doing all the time in this realm. So the idea is I didn't really want to, but I did anyway. She didn't talk about any force. He didn't grab her or anything else. So is it expected that she's like, I don't want to, but yeah, okay, yes. That's kind of what she's paid to do. Yes, absolutely.
They broke at lunch. When they came back from lunch, the Trump side argued for a mistrial, and this will be interesting. I mean, this could really be a key point in an appeal similar to the Harvey Weinstein case, because if you basically prejudice the jury on stuff that's not related to the case itself, well, that could be grounds for an appeal. It was a grounds for appeal with regards to Harvey Weinstein. And, we know all how big a creep
and we know
he is.
and we knew the Harvey Weinstein were things that were extraneous stories with other people that weren't in here. This is the fundamental person, the principal involved in the payment. So I think that's where it's going to be difficult for them to win this on appeal, because would you not want the jury to hear what happened and why we are paying her hush money? Because that's the issue, is what is the reason that Michael Cohen took out the money? And then what's the reason that Donald Trump said he was paying Michael Cohen for legal services that were not rendered? What is the reason behind it? So this gets to, the kernel of what the, actual incident is. So I think that's the only reason. But you're right. Some of the language that could be appealable.
The reason that Stormy Daniels was interested in kind of connecting with Donald Trump after this was they kind of threw out ideas that she might be on Celebrity Apprentice and stuff like that. But after a few years of that not happening, the whole thing kind of just died down. Wasn't a big deal until rumors started to get out there about this. And it wasn't just the National Enquirer that approached her about this. There were some other magazines that also approached her about this and wanted to get her story and that type of stuff. But it really didn't pop up until he ran for president. And that's when the story resurfaced. And her argument in this case, her testimony was she had moved on. She had moved to Texas. She had gotten married. She had a child. She was involved in raising horses. Her neighbors didn't even really know who she was and all that stuff. And then this all kind of came back with the trial and with the campaign, and now that's why it was all elevated again. So
because of course it's a huge story if you can find that the married candidate for president had a tryst, especially with a porn star. That I mean, if you're looking at subscription numbers and you're talking about magazines, those things fly off the shelf just because of that salacious story. So absolutely, everybody wanted to tell the story. Everybody did.
They covered Michael Avenatti, her relationship with him as well. So it was a full day. But the cross-examination is going to continue. And
on another note, when we talk about the idea of salacious story and how many magazines wanted it, I think going back to the conversation we had with Chris Murray yesterday with David Pecker saying, well, eventually we decided it wasn't that interesting. That's where I don't think the jury is going to believe him, because there were so many other outlets that wanted this story. And you're telling me that if they would have dropped this story, their traffic wouldn't have immediately doubled, if not tripled or quadrupled on the site immediately? Yes, absolutely. So the idea that they chose it wasn't a good story and they didn't want the publicity, I think that isn't going to sell very well with the jury, but that's just a personal opinion.
There was another outlet that did try to buy it early on and ended up not running it and putting it onto a recent blog. I'll try to dig that up if I can get into those details here. But It was not, I don't know if it was the slam dunk that the prosecution was looking for. She did have to admit, especially towards the end of her testimony, that she owes Donald Trump a lot of money right now, and she's not necessarily going to pay it. She is very clear about that. Let's see if I can find that line here. Okay. She owes Trump $660,000 in legal fees. Defense attorney Suzanne Nichols, I think is how you pronounce her name.
Nichols. She's good.
Has
She's
been
really good.
going over the judgments that have been entered against Stormy Daniels in her litigation with Donald Trump to try to show the jury that Daniels has a financial motive to see him jailed. A defamation case filed by Daniels against Trump in California resulted in the case being dismissed and Daniels being ordered to pay more than $293,000 in Trump legal fees. Nichols said judgments for legal fees have also been entered against her for $245,000 and another last year for $121,972. You have chosen to disobey a court order, Nichols said to Daniels. I've chosen not to pay, Daniels replied. She acknowledged tweeting that she would go to jail before she paid Trump.
Wow. And again, I think she missed an opportunity there. Because she could have said, and when Nichols says you're violating court order, I would say yes, just like your client, and then say, and you're going to go to jail, yes, just like your client. I mean, there was an opportunity there that was right there in front of her. But Nichols is very good. She is remarkably adept at cross-examination from what I've seen and read so far, and I think it is very, very smart for her to bring up the finances inside of Stormy Daniels, how there is sort of an anger/revenge motivation because she's lost to him in court a couple of times. So the one thing she really wants is him to be held accountable, just like she said during the prosecution questioning. So Nichols, wonderful, wonderful job of shedding some shade on Stormy Daniels as being credible in the motivations behind this. She did a really, really good job.
She went on to point out that Daniels has made money by claiming to have had love with Trump. You've been making money by claiming you made love with Donald Trump for more than a decade, correct? Daniels agreed. She wrote a book that described her 2006 alleged sexual encounter with Trump. You say you had sex with President Trump, right? Yes, Daniels replied. And that story has made you a lot of money, right? It cost me a lot of money too, she said without elaborating. So, they get into name calling and going back and forth there. So that continued. It was interesting. What did you think of the tale of being threatened in the parking lot? Did you get into that detail?
No,
So she claims that some anonymous person showed up to threaten her in a parking lot. She was also cross-examined on that, denied an accusation that she falsified an account. She never went to the police about it. She brought this up on The View. And Avenatti announced a $100,000 reward for information leading to the man's identification. And then Daniel said, I would never agree to that, raising her hand over her head and pointing her finger towards the ceiling for emphasis. The whole story was made up, wasn't it? Nichols asked. No, none of it was made up. Daniels fired back.
It's always difficult if you don't go to the police in those situations. And I understand in things like sexual assault and rape why that doesn't happen because of the personal embarrassment. However, when someone comes up and threatens you, I just think it's a good idea. And I always tell my kids this as well. That's why you email your teachers, you get a paper trail.
Yep.
That's the idea, is you want a paper trail. I actually was, and I'm not going to go into details here, this is a number of years ago, where there were some accusations floating around about myself. And I actually contacted the police proactively and said, here, this is what is going on. Here's this, here's where I was, here's this. And I said, I have all of this information and I will send it to you. What email do I send it to, etc., to show you so that this never becomes a question as to whether or not I was involved in what was going on here, because there were some questions.
You did the Mike Pence on the FBI.
Yeah. I'm like, listen, this is what's going to happen. I go, and I called them proactively. I said, listen, there's some questions. And they said, what? I go, yeah. I know that this is being discussed. And so I just want to provide you with this information. If you have any other follow-up questions or anything else you need, let me know.
Yeah.
They never got back to me.
That's good to do. Yeah. I had the husband of a congresswoman threatened me by encouraging Antifa to go after me.
Oh, geez.
And the Douglas County Police found out about that as well.
Luckily, they're not very well organized. They are not. I mean, again, I understand the boogeymen of Antifa, but they're not very well organized, nor are they very large. So, yeah. But it's effective. It's very effective. Very effective.
You got to get the record. All right, Johnny, we're going to get to you in just a second. Friends, I want to talk to you about American financing. Everyone thinks mortgage rates are extremely high, but it's not entirely true. Mortgage rates are much lower than the average credit card rate of 22%. Think about how much interest you're going to pay on that credit card if you're only paying the minimum payment every month. If you're a homeowner, a cash out refinance with American Financing can help you pay off that debt and lower your monthly expenses. They are saving homeowners just like you an average of $854 a month. Their salary-based mortgage consultants will show you how much you can save every month with no upfront fees and no obligations. You may even close in as fast as 10 days, possibly delaying 2 mortgage payments, giving you a greater savings up front. Get the financial relief you need and stop living paycheck to paycheck, especially if you got that credit card debt, guys. Attack it. Call American Financing today. American Financing, 303-695-7000. That's 303-695-7000. Give them a call. At least have a conversation with them. AmericanFinancing.net. NMLS 182334. ConsumerAccess.org. Let's go to Johnny in Denver. Johnny, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Morning.
Well, Trump knows how to make good TV. I don't know if you guys remember, like during one of the debates that he had with Hillary Clinton, that he had 4 of the women that Clinton had been involved with. And I remember the commentators talking about like Bill was looking off to, like in the space as Trump says, we have these women here. And I'm thinking Hillary is the most vindictive person. And I'm thinking that must have been just seething her. And in the back of her mind, she was thinking like, how could we get him back for this? And then there you have Stormy Daniels.
Yeah, so you think it was connected to Clinton? I think he probably did hook up with Stormy Daniels one night.
Yeah, but for him to bring out those 4 women that Clinton had been involved with, and I wish he would have brought in the other lady that he supposedly had like a love child with. Because they said the guy looks just like Bill, just a darker shade of Bill.
Oh yeah.
But that didn't happen. But I'm just thinking like Hillary being, the Russia. I have a feeling that she has something to do to just keep this Daniels, even though whether it's true or not, keeping that up there to really dig at him for what he did during that debate.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, Hillary's probably still got her tangled webs weaved through all this.
And we know she's still mad because she should have won that election. She should have. There was no reason for her, based in conventional wisdom, for her to lose that election. But she decided to spike the football on the 5-yard line.
Yeah.
And that is again, I still believe that is going to be studied by political scientists for decades as far as how badly she closed. And there are going to be seminars for candidates about don't forget the close. Don't just coast the last few weeks.
That, and I think she just had really high unlikability. I think there's any other Democrat probably would have finished that race and
absolutely
won.
Absolutely. And the thing is that across the aisle wasn't a very likable character in Donald Trump. And that's the issue, is that she couldn't overcome that.
Yeah.
There are going to be things that are going to be talked about how, and especially her basket of deplorables. That too is going to be a very seminal moment in where that campaign turned.
When we come back, crowd favorite, you choose the news. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in London, I'm Julia Chapman, and here are the top stories we're following. Sources suggest the Biden administration will miss its Wednesday deadline to publish findings on whether Israel is violating international law in Gaza. The State Department is due to report to Congress by today on the use of American weapons by Israel, amid concerns they're being used in breaches of humanitarian law. It comes after U.S. officials confirmed the administration stalled the delivery of thousands of weapons to the country last week. Officials say it's a political message to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu as he begins a military operation in Rafah, the southern Gaza city where more than 1 million Palestinians are taking shelter. TikTok and its Chinese parent company ByteDance have sued the US government over a new law that could potentially see the platform banned over security concerns. Tony Washerman has more.
In the lawsuit, TikTok says the reasons given to get ByteDance to sell its video platform or face a ban are speculative, and even if grounded in fact, there would be less restrictive ways to address the issue. TikTok also said that national security concerns don't trump the First Amendment, and a ban would violate users' free speech.
And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Julia Chapman in London on Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. You choose the news, Mr. Bill.
Yes, sir. It is that time of the morning where we get to play everybody's favorite fake radio news game show, You Choose the News. I've scoured the interwebs for mere moments this morning to find really dumb stories about us humans and give them even more ridiculous headlines to play this fake radio news game. Why? Because the powers that be do not wake up this early. Yes, they are not awake. We have a mere 10 minutes before the alarm goes off, so we must play this game quickly and quietly. Shh, it's a secret. Do not tell anybody. Alrighty, gentlemen. Blake Olson from the newsroom, Jeff Hunt are my co-host. Here are your choices this morning. Headline number 1, just following instructions. Headline number 2, maybe let them crash for history. Headline number 3, maybe it's a puzzle. Headline number 4, officer injured, no evidence.
Ooh, let's check out the officer injured, no evidence.
Officer injured, no evidence. We are traveling to New York and the Department of Corrections. This occurred recently where officer was injured, and basically he suffered burns and smoke inhalation on the upper portion of his body. He was quickly transported to Mount Sinai Hospital for treatment, but they don't have any evidence as to what happened because the culprit burned up in the accident.
Oh, no.
The issue is the officer's body cam caught on fire. I wasn't aware that was in the brochure.
No, that's
Yes.
like another hazard they have to deal with out there.
Caught on fire, so the officer has mild burns on the upper part of the chest and smoke inhalation from everything that happened. They have no idea what happened, what was involved, anything else, but who knew that was an option, that the body cameras would just go up in flames. However, there may be some officers out there that might use this as an excuse. Sorry, Captain. My body camera went up in flames. I have no idea what happened to the suspect. I don't know why they can't walk anymore.
Just another thing they have to watch out for.
I know. It's the idea of it just caught on fire. Imagine wearing a body cam and all of a sudden, we wear these headphones and stuff for the show. Imagine those just all of a sudden fire. You're like, wait, hang on a sec. Alrighty. So your second choice. Just following instructions. Maybe let them crash for history, or maybe it's a puzzle.
Let them crash.
Yeah, maybe we need to let them crash, for history. We are traveling to our very own city of Colorado Springs right here in beautiful Colorado for this one, because recently the city of Colorado Springs had to release a feasibility study because people keep crashing by the statue. At Nevada Avenue and Platte Avenue, there's a statue of General Palmer. Problem is, it's in the middle of the intersection.
Yep, I know exactly where that is.
And the problem is, you can't see if you're making a left turn. So there are an unusual number of crashes right there. And people have supposed maybe we need to change the intersection. The one thing right now is just at least making it into a roundabout, so then we go in a circle before we hit each other. But the solution is, some people, though, are saying, no, just keep it the way it is. Let them go ahead and hit each other, for history. Because why would you want to move the statue? We don't want to do those kind of things.
Who is the general there?
General Palmer, I believe it is. Let me look here.
Oh, Palmer Divide? The founder of the city.
I would assume so. Yeah. So that's it. Yeah.
We live in the Palmer Divide. It's just wonderful weather, wind all the time.
You can blame him next time there are crashes. Evidently, it's his fault. Alrighty. Blake Olson in the newsroom. Our final choice this morning. Just following instructions, or maybe it's a puzzle.
Let's go with the instructions.
Yeah, sometimes you really just need to follow the instructions. Here we're traveling to Sackett's Harbor. Recently, police confronted a Sackett's Harbor man and said, hey, dude, what you doing in the water? And he said, well, I'm looking for my car. The problem is, early one morning, he was driving down the road and his GPS told him to take a right turn. So he did. Right onto the village's boat launch and directly into the lake.
There's a whole Office episode about that.
Yes. So the 26-year-old said that GPS just told me to make the right turn, and he failed to see that it was a boat launch or that there was a big body of water in front of him at the time. I don't know what he was looking at, considering the water in the lake is rather large. However, this is the problem I have. Is this, Terminator Skynet, where it takes over, the AI is going to take over and then decide to kill us all? This is how it's going to happen. It's not going to have to build Terminators. It's just going to take our GPS and make us drive into lakes. Because evidently, if GPS tells us to do it, we are happy to do it. So that's all that's going to happen. AI Skynet is just going to take over your GPS and go, nope, left turn to the lake. And you're like, well, GPS told me to. Gotta listen to the voice. Into the lake. And that's what's going to happen. That's how we're going to die. I'm convinced of that at this point.
I agree with you 100%.
Yes.
The younger generations cannot believe we used to drive around with maps in our car to navigate. And then that brief period of about 4 years where we would print out direction by direction via MapQuest, and you would just have random pieces of paper scattered all throughout your car.
This is what's okay. I am so old school. even though I do have the GPS, I still take small pieces of paper and I will write down the instructions for me. Yes. And I will sit there and I have a way of writing it down. I'll have it on the paper. And if it's on a Post-it note, it goes right in the middle of the steering wheel so that I can look at it as I'm going. I don't really need the GPS. It's just something that makes me feel better. It's something that I know this, because even on the map, there are times I'm like, well, I know that I've got this. And then two turns later, I'm walking this through my head. And the map, I have a little tiny picture. I don't get to see everything I want to. But on my piece of paper, everything I need. So again, I'm an idiot. I don't know how I function sometimes in the morning.
remember all the old jokes about men that don't need maps?
Yes.
Or whatever? I was one of those guys. I
Yeah.
mean, as long as you get on a highway on the interstate, you can find anything.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, a tree, a building,
Yep.
whatever. So I tell my kids about that all the time.
Yeah.
Maps. What are maps?
Yeah, maps. What do you do? Yeah, we played a game growing up when we were just learning to drive. My buddy and I, we would pick a direction from the house and we'd throw, it was a cassette tape in at the time, throw the cassette tape in, and we'd drive in one direction for 45 minutes, and then you'd have to find your way home. That was the game. Yeah.
Great.
Kids don't get to play those games anymore. Hey, thanks, Blake. We'll talk to you in a sec.
Cool.
And that's the end of You Choose the News. We are proudly not sponsored by Roll 'em Out Shelves. They're a wonderful mother-son team. Check them out at rollemoutshelves.com. Rollemoutshelves.com. They will do a free home estimate to clear up your clutter. Back to you.
You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Good morning, Denver. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, center, and sometimes crazy. It's going to be a beautiful day in America's greatest city, and we're gearing up for a whole nother hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab your coffee, Denver. Let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Coming up here in just a second, the discussion we want to have: Boy Scouts of America changing name to be more inclusive, Scouting America after years of woe. Is this the turnaround that the Boy Scouts finally need, or is just this the continued decline of the Boy Scouts to irrelevancy? Give us a call, 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. If you were a Boy Scout, are your boys or daughters still part of Scouting America, or have you moved on? I'd love to hear from you. Let's check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Morning, Jeff and Billy. 39 and sunny in Denver, expecting highs in the upper 50s today, despite the freeze warnings last night and this morning. The 710 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story: a group of illegal immigrants staying at an encampment in Denver sent a list of demands to the mayor's desk. You'll do what we ask, or
else.
Or else what?
Exactly.
Or else.
Or else what?
Exactly.
What?
Right.
actually, they said they'll stay in the city-funded shelters if their demands are met. One of them is better food. They're also looking for work permits. They're not receiving any kind of official housing or immigration document support, and they're frustrated. Welcome to the DMV and government. Yes.
$90 million we're spending on these folks, and it's not enough.
Yep. So there you go. You know, the Democrats and the left, invite them in and encourage them to come to the great United States of America. And we have all this garbage going on.
Give a mouse a cookie.
Yeah, no doubt. You know, you turn their lives upside down. They think they're going to come to the golden streets and everything's going to be great. And then just total chaos. Meanwhile, the Colorado House has passed legislation that would streamline the process for illegal immigrants trying to get a driver's license or a state ID card. The bill would remove requirements for immigrants or illegal immigrants to provide a social security card and a resident income tax return from the previous year. It would all go ahead.
No, do you think these guys, when they get in a car accident, are sticking around?
No, none of them are.
No, of course not. They're bailing out of there, and we're just allowing them to even drive more.
And I guarantee you, I'm not their driver's ed teacher like my son is going through right now.
Right.
I mean, I would love to teach everyone how to drive, but that's not happening. It would also get rid of the requirement for 2-year proof of residency, and then expand the list of acceptable identification documents needed to get a license. But then why would you ever need something like that?
You know, the first thing, if you grew up in Colorado, the first thing you teach your kids when they're learning to drive is get out of the left lane.
Yes.
You don't go there. You don't hang out there. It's not where you drive. You let the guys going 80 go over there.
That's what's funny when you listen to Prager. He's always talking about how he hates coming to Colorado because everyone drives in the left lane, and I am convinced those are not Coloradans. They can't.
No, they aren't. In fact, my wife and I have had talked to. My wife grew up in California. That's where she learned to drive, and she would say, "I never learned that you pass in the left lane."
Is that right?
It was just a lane that you get into if you're just going to cruise.
Wow.
And I'm like, no, absolutely not.
No, get out of the left lane. I just told my son 2 days ago, no, never. You will never, ever drive in that lane. I mean, until you're 21. All right. When you turn 21, we'll talk about driving in
when you pay your own speeding tickets.
Well, what if I have to take a left? Well, I'll tell you what. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a right here, and then we're going to go around the block. And you can maneuver your way over there. How about that? All right. Teachers with the Denver Teachers Association Union held walk-ins at several schools in the metro area on Tuesday. Teachers want the district to honor a financial agreement made in 2022 that includes compensation for years of experience, in addition to a cost of living adjustment proposed at 5.2%. The district recently announced that the number will be 2%. Couldn't they do that after school hours? No, they had to do it during school hours, evidently, and during the school week. Former President Trump's show trial off today. Tuesday was TMI Tuesday as Stormy Daniels took the stand.
A very big day. A very revealing day. As you see, their case is totally falling apart. They have nothing on books and records, and even something that should bear very little relationship to the case. It's just a disaster for the DA, for the Soros-backed DA. It's a disaster.
Look, any judge worth his or her salt, if you see something happening that is going to jeopardize a conviction, you yourself, sua sponte, on your own, will say, I'm going to stop the line of questioning right here. And then what you do is you call the parties to the bench. But Mershon, and, I heard one person say on Fox, oh, he's a really experienced judge. He's a fool. He's not an experienced judge the way he's doing this.
Judge Janine on Fox News Channel. The clowns on The View want the former president in jail, and they are giddy.
I think to make a point, to prove a point, put him in the clink. Oh, why not? Put him in the clink.
I don't want this to sound like I'm doing wishful thinking.
Yes.
But which prison would be best?
I'm
going to give you, Michael. Well, that's what I got. Number one, I'm okay if he goes to Alcatraz and they reopen it. What about Guantanamo Bay?
Let me tell you something. If there's a photo of Trump behind bars,
if they put a photograph of Trump behind bars, the election is history.
Do it.
Let's go.
Absolutely. It'll make between now and November so much easy when you show how out of touch you are. I mean, it's like basket of deplorables. When you are that far out of touch, when you are that elitist, every day because you're on The View and you get paid, millions of dollars a year, and you laugh about what everybody else is going through, and you put those guys in like Trump in prison. Do it. Absolutely.
Yeah. I love it. Can you imagine the billboards and the posters and all across the country? That photo will win
50 states.
There'd be more posters of that than Farrah Fawcett in the 70s. You don't remember that.
I know what poster you're talking about.
You're too young for that. All right, hockey.
Tagliano zooms it ahead. Wood with speed. Wood drives in. Backhand. Score! Miles Wood, the hero in overtime.
Wow. The Avalanche over the Stars in North Texas in Dallas last night. Game 1, they lead it 1-0 in the Western Conference semifinals. Man, there are very few things better than playoff hockey, especially in overtime. 34 in Boulder, 36 in Englewood. It's 39 in Denver. It's Wacky Wednesday with Jeff and Bill. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
The 710 5-day forecast, a freeze watch is in effect tonight through Wednesday morning. It'll be partly cloudy, brisk today and cool. Highs will be 55 to 60. There'll be a chance for a few isolated showers late today. Strong west winds. Windy tonight, cool, low to mid-30s, near freezing temperatures. Wednesday will be partly cloudy, breezy, a high near 60. Wednesday night, Thursday, and Friday, a chance of showers and a few thunderstorms and cool and unsettled. Meteorologist Don Day, 710 KNUS.
Yesterday, the Associated Press reporting Boy Scouts of America changing name to more inclusive Scouting America after years of woe. Boy Scouts of America announced after 114 years that it will change its name and become Scouting America in an effort to emphasize inclusion as it works to move past the turmoil of bankruptcy and a flood of sexual abuse claims. The rebrand is another seismic shift for an organization steeped in tradition that did not allow gay youths or girls to begin joining its ranks until relatively recently. Seeking to boost flagging membership numbers, the Irving, Texas-based organization announced the name change Tuesday at its annual meeting in Florida. In the next 100 years, we want any youth in America to feel very, very welcome to our program. Roger Crone, who took over last fall as president and chief executive officer. Here he is yesterday.
Sends this really strong message to everyone in America that they can come to this program, they can bring their authentic self, they can be who they are, right? And they will be welcomed here. The argument that I make with the people that say, well, I always like Boy Scouts of America or BSA, why do we have to change? Go, membership is at historic lows, right? Part of my job is to reduce all the barriers I possibly can for people to accept us as an organization and to join.
So his goal is to remove barriers in order to get as many people to join as possible. The name change will officially take effect on February 8th, 2025, timed to the organization's 115th birthday. The organization began allowing gay youth in 2013 and ended a blanket ban on gay adults in 2015. In 2017, it made the historic announcement that girls would be accepted as Cub Scouts as of 2018 and into the flagship Boy Scout program renamed Scouts BSA in 2019. So this is now their second name change. Over 6,000 girls have now achieved the vaunted Eagle Scout rank. Bill, did you do Boy Scouts growing up?
Yeah. Cubs and a little bit of boy. Yeah. And then both of my boys did, and one of my girls did, but none of them made it all the way through Boy Scouts. My youngest daughter, who's 15 right now, was one of the early girls that wanted to do Boy Scouts because her sister had done Girl Scouts and she had tagged along and she thought it was boring. She thought the boys did much cooler stuff because she saw what her brothers did. And so she wanted to do the camping. She wanted to do the other stuff, but it was very, very early on in a very fledgling state. And meetings were difficult. Times were difficult. She was one of like 3 girls. And they were always sort of, at that time, because they're so new, sort of separated out. And there were certain things that they didn't really know how to integrate the girls yet. Yeah. And she said some of it was great. Like we did one with her. Went up. Oh God, it had snowed. There had to be 2 feet of snow, and it was a whole bunch of it was like the scouting. Oh, I don't know, like Olympics, where the hell it is, where you go and you have different activities. And so as as your unit, you go and you have to, put somebody onto a stretcher and carry them so far. You have to go and gather this and then start a fire. You have to do these things. Right. So and she enjoyed the heck out of it. And she was really, really good at it. One of the things that she was good at that the boys were happy is she could do art and things. So she was able to do things and added something to the unit that they didn't have. And there were some things she was really good at. So it was nice, but she just was like, after a while, it just didn't feel right for her. And with the other boys, unfortunately, in both situations, they got into Boy Scout units where there were some unkind older scouts. And
I've run into that too.
Yeah, and that was jerks. Oh yeah, there was one, and especially with my older boy, he really, really enjoyed Boy Scouts. He enjoyed it. Yeah. But he finally came to me and said, "You know what? When I go to the meetings, I am scared the entire time we're driving there, and I don't know if I'm going to have a good time until I see whether or not this kid is there. Really? Because I know if he's there, I'm going to have an awful night." And if he's not there, I'm going to have a great night. And I sat there and we had a conversation. I'm like, I don't think that your happiness or enjoyment of this should be predicated on this kid being there. And he was high enough in the ranks. He had a high enough responsibility. We weren't going to do anything about that. I couldn't go. I mean, and I knew the father of the boy, but this was not going to change because the kid was doing this when the adults weren't around. So this was not something that I was going to be able to fix or change at that point. So we walked away. And I've talked to a number of people that I know that have done that as well. However, like Chris Carroll, a friend of the show, guy that does production here. Yeah. His son all the way through, Eagle Scout, all the way through. Right. Yeah. And Brockler's kids as well. Yeah, Trey, Eagle Scouts. I mean, phenomenal kid.
So I did it all the way up until Boy Scouts too. And there was, it's definitely not everybody, but there is this element of kind of know-it-allism that I didn't really like. This is a guy that was, I was a river guide. I was a mountain guide. I was a rock climbing guide. I spent a ton of time outside, but there was this kind of weird element that I didn't really enjoy. So I pulled out, and then our kids did it in Cub Scouts and did the Pinewood Derbies. And that's what they loved. They loved hanging out with their dad. They liked boys being boys. And so I'm sympathetic to your daughter wanting to have those experiences.
Yeah.
I'm also sympathetic to what I experienced as a boy, which was that was the only time that it was just dudes together. And we had a ton of fun being dudes and being boys and being rambunctious and over the top and all that stuff. And when I saw the girls start to come in, it just changed the dynamic it was just different, right? Not necessarily good or bad. It just, that element of boys just being totally out of control and kind of rambunctious and changed when girls were around, as it naturally would.
Yeah.
So I go, okay, I want your daughter to be able to have those experiences. I think that's important. And if Girl Scouts aren't going to give that to her, all right, then someplace should. But I also want a place where dudes can just kind of be dudes.
Oh, I didn't experience that with my daughter. The boys were still stupid. They were still doing it. They were still, putting sticks places they shouldn't and hitting each other with stuff. So I still saw them being guys. And the issue being that I disagree that the Boy Scouts of America is the only place that happens. And that's
where
because
else would that happen?
Sports.
Teams.
Yeah.
Teams. Sports teams.
Yeah. Teams. Absolutely.
But you're so
but
focused in on a game there. You're not necessarily like building teepees and stuff.
But again, it is about what's the reason that you're there? Okay, hang on. Got to center my thoughts. You said boys being boys. It wasn't about, you weren't about, well, there's a place for boys to build teepees. There's a place for boys to learn how to start fires. You were just talking about boys.
Element.
But boys being boys happens in sporting events. Boys being boys also happens in theater groups. Boys being boys also happens in Dungeons and Dragons clubs. Boys being boys happens in all those things. In fact, my oldest daughter was dating a kid. This was his sophomore year, maybe, or junior year. I don't remember which one. Dating a boy who was part of the school Dungeons and Dragons club. So she went to be the good girlfriend to go join Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
And she's like, these bunch of boys sit around and they're just idiots the entire time. They were boys being boys. And I'm like, what did you expect? What did you really expect? So I don't think that is the only purview. I understand that. And I have a sensitivity to the idea of going from all male into co-ed that probably branches over the experiences of most people in the audience, because I was a member of Mullen High School when it went co-ed. I was there when it was all guys and then was there when it was co-ed.
And it changed.
So I have it changed. And absolutely it changed. And it was changed, some for the better, some for the worse, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I have this real life experience of going from a single sex organization into one that is co-ed. And the only thing that I would say, and the reason I would say that the Scouts of America should do this, is for survival. That is the reason Mullen High School went co-ed.
Yeah.
They were going to close if they did not. There was not another solution. And for the Scouts, there is not another solution either. They will either disappear or they need to be co-ed.
So I'll say this. There's an organization out there called Trail Life. So what happened when Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts became more secular is that Christian conservatives created alternative organizations, Trail Life being one of them, American Heritage Girls being one of them. And they're like really faith-based. I mean, this is like Bible study time in addition to scouting type of stuff. So, and they're seeing their numbers grow, but that's not going to appeal to secular audiences. So in those cases, I think, you remember when the Mormons left Boy Scouts?
Yeah. Yep.
So do you think that they'll climb out of this? Or do you think they'll just kind of continue to dwindle?
I think that what they're trying to do is hold the water level. I don't think it's necessarily going to be growth, but I think it stops the slide. If things change inside the organization, there is an opportunity for growth. But I don't see an opportunity for growth with them being a single-sex organization anymore based on how they are structured right now. I just don't see the opportunity for growth. And I think that exists in a co-ed situation. Much more.
Give us a call. Were you a part of Boy Scouts growing up? Has it changed? Would you put your kids into it today? How about Girl Scouts? How about that? And they've got their own issues as well. This was a question coming through a text message. Are the Girl Scouts responding with a similar name change? The move to accept girls through the Boy Scout ranks, this is from the Associated Press, strained a bond with the Girl Scouts of the USA, which sued, saying it created marketplace confusion and damaged its recruitment efforts. They reached a settlement agreement after a judge rejected those claims, saying both groups are free to use the words like scouts and scouting. Past pressure to allow girls into Boy Scouts had come from those, including National Organization for Women, which applauded Tuesday's announcement. Much of the online criticism involved the word woke, including Representative Andrew Clyde, a Georgia Republican, who said on X, "Wokeness destroys everything it touches."
So is this destruction? Is that what you would think? Would you agree with him that this is destroying the Boy Scouts?
Give us a call, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971. Text us on the 710KNUS app. Guys, I've had a lot of dental work done in my mouth. It's just a genetic issue I was born with. I got to go to cleanings 3 times a year. If it's a procedure, I've probably had it done. I know good dentists, and Dr. Mike at Rocky Mountain Dental Group is a good dentist. He helps people like you and me look and feel amazing by providing the best dental care available. You can see for yourself all the 5-star reviews at RockyMountainDentalGroup.com. Here's one. Do yourself a favor. Go there. Staff goes beyond expectations, and they provide excellent service, affordable, friendly, reasonable, gentle, careful, kind service. And if you're experiencing recession on your upper or lower gums, ask Dr. Mike about the groundbreaking procedure called pinhole gum rejuvenation technique, a treatment option for those experiencing receding gums. It's scalpel-free, suture-free, and a graft-free procedure. Just a tiny pinhole and gentle repositioning of the gums. Visit RockyMountainDentalGroup.com. That's RockyMountainDentalGroup.com, or call 303-233-1335 for a free consultation. 303-233-1335. We'll get to your calls and texts next. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Boy Scouts of America changing their name to Scouting for America. Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show, or sorry, Scouting America. We're discussing this name change that's going to be official later this year. Boy Scouts used to be at 5 million, I believe. It's now down at 1 million. They had to compensate $2.4 billion as a result of 80,000 men who said they were sexually abused as children while in scouting. You know, Boy Scouts of America started as kind of a faith-based organization for males exclusively. It shed faith-based. It's now shedding male only. It's changing its name. Bottom line, this is just not the same organization that it once was. Is this good? Is this the change with the times, or is it wokeness killing another organization that it got its hands into? Let's go to the phone lines. Let's start with Bob in Fort Lupton. Bob, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Bob.
Morning, guys. Just briefly, it really seems that boys and girls, especially during those developing formative years, have different needs. And a lot of their activities, co-ed campouts, a lot of this type of idea of integration and androgyny, like you say, it's not going to be the same organization, and I think they're going to have a lot of stress going through that kind of change. And personally, I tend to agree. They're just treading water right now, trying to keep their nose above to keep from going under. Financially, they're a shambles. And it's just been a very difficult last 10 years for them.
Bob, what do you think of some of those groups like Trail Life that are kind of trying to go back and recapture that, right? We're going to be faith-based. We are going to be separate in sexes, and you have American Heritage Girls being the other one. Do you think that's the future? You think that's just kind of a small carve-off that's willing to go that way? I know the Mormons have basically gone their own direction as well. What do you think is the future for all of those groups?
I think what we're probably going to see is a multiplicity of those groups, and I believe that there's going to be growth among them. It may just split off that parents are going to be making their decisions on, where they want their kids, and it's kind of a shame. I went through the program, the scouting program is very, very good, and a lot of their big endowments that they were given back during the 30s from Wade Phillips and a lot of the moguls of industry, a lot of that has been squandered. It's just gone. And without that financial foundation, it's going to be very difficult for the Boy Scouts or Scouting America or whatever they want to call it to continue to be viable.
Bob, I really appreciate the call. Bob from Fort Lupton, his line will be open 303-696-1971. We're talking Boy Scouts of America changing their name, Scouting America, allowing girls to be a part of it, allowing the LGBT community now in. Does that change the organization? Is it compelling to you? Would you still put your kids into Scouting America? Or are you looking for alternatives like Trail Life or American Heritage Girls? Let's go to Mary in Wyoming. Mary, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Mary.
Good morning.
Good morning. I wanted to be a Girl Scout. As you know, I'm older, and at that time, it was a school thing, and I went to a couple meetings. Bill, I did end up going to a couple of meetings in the with the Brownies, but they did not treat me very well.
Oh,
so then I tried the Bluebirds, which was more of or I think they were called Bluebirds, Ladybirds, something like that at that time, and they would not even let me join at all. And then when I got into junior high, I ended up joining Civil Air Patrol. And that's where I learned how to shoot a rifle, because they had a rifle team. And also, I was on a drill team. In fact, I became the drill sergeant, and we traveled to the different states in drill competitions, including Hawaii. And I got to fly, and I can't remember the jet. That was back in my time. It was one of the first ones, but as a reward, I got to a trip in one of their jets.
Wow.
Mary, so Mary's a regular caller. She's a great friend of the show. Do you have any video of you being a drill leader? I would love to see that.
No, and we had to do that in Cuban Hills. We wore the Air Force uniform, and we had to wear Cuban heels. And we were awesome, though. It was pretty awesome.
Well, the boys couldn't have done it in the heels, so yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, you're awesome.
And we had times where we had to go on, we did do search and rescue. And there was one where we ended up having to go in the Olympic Forest and bring out a plane had crashed, and we had to hike in.
Wow.
And I was afraid of heights.
Oof,
so
I remember it was an Air Force guy. We also, were chaperoned by women and men, Air Force, anytime we were on a mission like that. But I mean, it was kind of exciting. But in other words, I ended up getting what do you call it? Frozen. I was frozen.
Oh, hypothermia.
Hypothermia. Yeah.
In fact, my they had to carry me into my house when we got back, and my mom looked at me and she said, "Never again."
All right. Well, you've got to at least text us in a picture. You got to have a picture of yourself all dressed up like that. That would have been fun to see.
All right.
So text it in.
I'd love to see that.
Mary, thanks for sharing. Mary's line will be open 303-696-1971. Boy Scouts of America changing its name. Scouting America, allowing girls, allowing the LGBTQ community. Is this progression? Is this wokeism that's regressing, destroying Boy Scouts of America and what it once was? Or is this progress and this is going to stop the decline that's been taking place? Yes, it's a new organization, but it's now different. Give us a call. Would you put your kids in Scouting America? We looked at Trail Life for our kids, and Trail Life, which was kind of the Christian conservative alternative, seemed great, but it was just a really big commitment. And my boys are into sports.
Oh, okay.
So for us,
what do you mean by big
commitment?
commitment? What was the commitment?
At least, I think it was at least weekly, every single
that's
week.
usual. Yeah.
And I think that you just, as a parent, you're just like, we are now at a point where we're like to our kids, you can do one thing.
Oh, yeah.
You can do one thing. I cannot be driving you to three different things a day.
And I think that is very smart for parents to do with kids, because you need to have them self-focus what they're really interested in. And again, it can change seasonally. In the fall, it can be one thing. Winter can be one thing. Spring can be one thing. Summer can be one thing.
Yes,
but yes,
exactly.
you need to change focus seasonally.
But our daughter was part of American Heritage Girls, had a great experience. It was just a big commitment. She's now working, so we've moved on from that. But let's go to Bob in Denver. Bob, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Bob.
Hello. I was never involved with Boy Scouts, nor were any of the boys that I grew up with involved with Boy Scouts. I still have an opinion, and that opinion is that yes, the organization will be destroyed, in a sense that just as the name has changed and is unrecognizable as what the Boy Scouts were, when you have a change like this, it's going to be in one sense, and I'm not saying it's good or bad, the old organization and its the way it functions and its character and all that will be destroyed, and it'll be different, just as the name is different. I feel like I can express a valid view on this, in that I grew up in rural South Dakota, all boys in my family, and I swear it would have been a whole different upbringing if I'd had two sisters rather than two brothers, even one sister. I had then three girls in our family, and it was a very different environment. As a matter of fact, I might say one that was quite an adjustment for me to deal with. Three girls, they're very different. I suppose you all know that. But I as a farm boy, I experienced, I'm sure, many of the things that the Boy Scouts attempt to give to their constituents. You learn how to be responsible. You learn how to work hard for 10 hours a day when you're little. Speaking of pictures, I have a picture of myself sitting on a one-legged stool milking an old Jersey cow.
Oh, wow.
When I was about 7 years old. All of those things. You learn how to tie knots. You learn how to butcher an animal. You learn how to clean an animal. Probably a lot of things that Boy Scouts are not able to do even in today's, just because of today's
now,
world.
Bob, we got a question for you. With your experience, do you think that this change is going to end up growing the affiliation with Scouting America? Are they going to see their numbers grow, or is this just preventative so they don't have this slide into irrelevancy?
Boy, that's a difficult question, and I don't know that I have a valid opinion on it. But there will be people who will reject it because of the things that you've been talking about, the woke elements of this, whether that's called woke or not, I don't know. But it's in my view unpredictable as to whether it will grow or not. I think my grandkids, and I have 15 of them.
Nice, good for you.
Involved with sports, and the parents are, as you were mentioning earlier, driving them hither and yon, and flying them to California and Canada, and as kids preteen even. So I don't know. There's a whole lot of challenges that I think are going to be difficult for an organization like the Boy Scouts to overcome.
To give you a sense of just some of the numbers, there were nearly 1,000 young women in the inaugural class of female Eagle Scouts. So once they opened it up, it was 1,000. That same year, there were 60,000 boys that got Eagle Scouts. So 1,000 versus 60,000.
Yeah.
So I think what they see is area for growth. They go, okay, we can grow that. But I think the compelling nature of it, I think they're losing. This is the way it felt to me when they started adding girls, is it seemed more like an after-school program, really? Which it kind of is. Like it's an after-school program in some capacities. That's what Boy Scouts is. But it lost that uniqueness of being a time for boys to be running around in the woods and just being boys together. As Bob was saying, they're just different. When you get boys together versus when you add a girl to the dynamic, the relationships are just different. Bob, I appreciate the call.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. You're absolutely right.
So much.
You're absolutely right that the boys and girls are absolutely different. I have two of each. And the example I always say is the croquet set example.
Huh.
Yeah. So everyone knows the croquet set, right? You know, the game croquet. You give a group of girls a croquet set, and within about 45 minutes, they'll be playing croquet. You give a group of boys a croquet set, 45 minutes, they're going to be Super Mario Brothers each other. So they're going to hit each other with a hammer. Same exact croquet set, two totally different interpretations and applications of what we are supposed to do with it. That is the fundamental difference between boys and girls. That's it.
The Boy Scout thing, the text message here, 8422, the Boy Scout thing is very sad. Allowing girls in is just wrong. It's important for boys to be boys once in a while, as well as girls to be girls. It's okay. It's an important part of growing up. Neil, Melissa, we'll get to you in just a second. I want to talk to you about UltraCur. If you're a guy like me, you're working out regularly, you're active. Sometimes you just have a bad night. I've got a creak in my back I can't get rid of. If it wasn't for UltraCur, it is a patented non-prescription natural capsule that works fast to address your soreness. Surveys show that 50% of people using UltraCur find relief within 48 hours and half of those within 2 hours. Experience UltraCur for free. Go to any Denver Metro natural grocers and ask for the health coach or the vitamin manager for your free 3-day trial of UltraCur. UltraCur is fueled by patented technology to give you the true edge to support your peak wellness, energy, and active lifestyle. If you've tried everything without much success, even other natural curcumin products, you owe it to yourself to try UltraCur today. UltraCur gives you unique control over your daily wellness. It's gentle on your stomach. That matters to me a lot. And it's a natural antioxidant. Get curious, Denver. Head to the natural grocers, grab your free 3-day UltraCur trial, no strings attached. Wondering about the research? Get the lowdown, get the details at getultranow.com. That's getultranow.com. Let's go to Neil in Wheat Ridge. Neil, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Neil.
Good morning. I got to tell you, I was listening to that commercial, and I hope that UltraCur does something for hearing, because I thought I heard you first say you had a creep on your back.
No, that's me. That's my job.
No, Billy, you're the thorn in the side.
That's fair.
That's good. I think my wife was like a creek. I think it's I think I may have got that word wrong. But go ahead.
Yeah. No, I grew up in this community, and I did the Boy Scouts throughout, from Cub Scouts through Boy Scouts. I'm an Eagle Scout here in the Wheat Ridge area, and our Troop 387 was a big one at the time. It doesn't exist anymore.
Wow.
But one of the things that said that in my time that I just don't see happening is over time, the very troop I was in, it just got its morals loose. It got its constructiveness loose. And if it were still existing today and we're in this program of scouting, I just don't even think I would see the same face that I saw of when I was in the 70s. And I think part of it is we had a mentality of boys doing things that boys love to do. And yeah, there were girls that were doing it in their Girl Scout group, but it was never a thing of girls thinking they had to be a part of what we had. We all enjoyed our separate identities in that regard. And this whole thing of communing it together as to me is no different than just loosening the structure. Because if you were to look at what do they offer now in the new scouting program, what are the leaders going to be like? Are the merit badges the same? Are they altering a lot of them? Are they changing a lot of the motto?
Yeah. Now, Neil, I can speak because I don't know what's going on now because my daughter has not been involved in a number of years, but she was involved early on in the co-ed version of scouting, and standards didn't change, merit badges didn't change, activities didn't change. And the reason that she wanted to do the Boy Scouts is because she had been exposed to Girl Scouts with her sister and thought the Girl Scouts were boring. She liked the stuff that her brothers were doing. She liked the camping. She liked the hiking. She liked being outdoors. She liked the physical nature of it. And the Girl Scouts weren't leaning into it. And so what I'm asking is, what do you tell my daughter? This is an opportunity for her to join them. Is it something that you would say, no, we're going to keep this boys only, that girls like my daughter that are searching for that need to find a different organization, or should they be allowed to join scouting? What's your position? What do you feel?
My position is it would depend on where scouting is that they're turning it into now. Is it just a name change or is it a structure change? Because if it's a structure change, then she's not going to benefit in the same way she would have in the early days.
Yeah, but early on, at least based on our experience, early on, the structure was the same. Early on, so let's just assume. Let's assume right now the structure is the same. Let's just assume, because we didn't talk, there wasn't anything outlined based on structures. The guy that made the announcement that's in charge of it didn't say they're going to be altering merit badges or achievements or anything like that. He didn't speak anything about altering it. So let's just assume for the discussion, just assume that the structure stays the same. What's your opinion then?
I guess I would have to say, let her try it. Let her see what it's like. But if you as a parent and her were to notice any kind of a difference in the way it is from the time she went in originally, then you've got to wonder, where is it headed? And is it headed in a way that's going to benefit her?
No, that is a fair point. And at the time, again, thanks for the phone call. I appreciate that. But I appreciate it a lot, Neil. At the time, it was the same structure, and that's what she was seeking. She was seeking these same physical challenges, outdoor activities, and camaraderie that she saw with her brothers that she didn't see necessarily with her sister's experience in Girl Scouts. And I will also add, I forgot this, and it just popped into my head. She was in Girl Scouts for a little while, because I remember selling cookies with her. So we did do at least 2 seasons of Girl Scouts before she decided it was boring. And then we transitioned and spent about 1.5 years in Boy Scouts. And then, we talked about, no more.
And it's the other component in this is just as kids have gotten more into sports. Like we basically just gave our boys the option. Now their dad, as I mentioned, was a former river guide, former mountain guide. We spent a ton of time outside already by ourselves. So for them, soccer was more interesting, or basketball was more interesting, and baseball.
That has become much more time demanding on parents and families because of the club structure that you now have in many soccer organizations. Also, practices are much more intense. I am seeing kids younger and younger going to 3-a-day practices rather than 2-a-days. And I've seen them gone from 1 hour to 90 minutes. So the training time is more intense, and the travel is more intense to get to games. I don't think we traveled outside of Denver until I was 11 or 12.
Right.
And then we were traveling. Yeah. But I know kids that are traveling at 10 out of state already.
No,
that is
that happened to us, and we're like, nah, we're not paying the $2,500 to go to Vegas. Sorry, team. All right. Last week or 2 weeks ago, we had Gay Ribble in studio here. Gay is a delightful person. Not only do you get a chance to work with a person that is just beaming with joy, but she has the same values, the same faith that many of us share on this radio program. She cares about her community. She was personally adopted herself, so she gives back to adoption services so that kids here in Colorado can find their forever parents. And best of all, she is an incredibly talented professional. She has over 14,000 pre-approved buyers just standing by, waiting for that right home to come on the market. So yeah, you can trust your friends. Yeah, you can trust your family members to go out there and sell a home for you. But if you really want to get the best bottom dollar for yourself, Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team are the best to use. They get an average of $30,000 more for their clients. Could you use an extra $30,000? That's precisely why you need Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. Their exclusive database filled with pre-screened buyers ready to make a purchase. Just take the stress and hassle out of selling your home while getting the best price. Here's an unbeatable offer. Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team will sell your house for 100% of the asking price, or Gay will pay you the difference. It's an offer you simply cannot refuse. Get 100% of your asking price guaranteed with Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. Give them a call today, 833-301-SOLD. That's 833-301-SOLD, or go to gayhasthebuyers.com. That's GAYE hasthebuyers.com. We'll continue this conversation. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
right, we're talking Boy Scouts of America. Let's go to Melissa in Lakewood. Melissa, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning.
Good morning. Real quick, I was going to say to Billy about his daughter, maybe the Girl Scouts, it's about time they bump it up a notch. Maybe they could bring that previous caller, Riley Gaines, or someone in there to,
that'd be fun.
Make it a little more exciting. But I was just going to say, I don't know who's going to be running all these changes, but I don't trust anything that the Democrats are doing. I mean, is this going to turn into, if there's transgender kids and everything, some kind of more secret sex ed for your kids when you think they're just out camping with the boys,
Well, Melissa, can you help me understand how the Democrats are in control of the Scouts?
Well, I'm not saying that they are, but I'm just saying with everything else that's with the bathrooms and I mean, it seems
the
like
agenda they're pushing. Yeah, it could find its way into here.
And they're going to have to maybe, accommodate some of the other kids who maybe don't want to do the more boyish
Melissa,
stuff.
we're out of time. I appreciate the call. We'll continue. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
In the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, center, and sometimes crazy. It's going to be another great day in America. And we are gearing up for a whole nother hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab your coffee, Denver. Let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Coming up in the 9 o'clock hour, just in about an hour, Michael Fields is going to join us. He's the president of Advanced Colorado Institute. We had Lisa Frizzell on yesterday. This deal that was brokered down at the state capitol about property tax relief. Well, there's a lot of pushback that's starting to develop, especially in conservative circles. It may not be everything that we wanted here. So Michael Fields is going to dive into those details 9 o'clock hour. In just a minute, you're never going to believe it gets worse for Kristi Noem. I mean, painfully worse. Yeah. Stop going on media at this point. If you're going to continue to go out with the same talking points over and over again, even conservative media can't believe what they're hearing from her. We're going to dive into that after the news with Blake Olson. Let's check in on that news. Good morning, Blake.
Good morning, Jeff and Billy. 43 and sunny in Denver, expecting highs in the upper 50s today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story: an Aurora man was shot last night while driving westbound on Mississippi between Moline and Nome. It left him with life-threatening injuries. There's no suspect information, and the police don't know if the victim and the suspect knew each other. The Denver City Council has unanimously approved a new overnight homeless shelter. The new shelter will be an expansion of the Haven of Hope, a shelter that's been operating for more than 25 years at 7th Avenue and Mariposa Street.
I feel, hold on, Blake, on that.
Yes.
I feel like that's a sign of failure as a city leader, where you're like, what did you build? Did you build new apartments? Did you build new condos?
We got a new one.
We got new homeless shelters.
Yes.
Because there's so many people homeless. It's just that's not a thing.
And drunk.
Right.
Just and then more fences and little tiny community things. And yeah, no, I agree with you. It's a sign of failure.
Decay. Denver and decay,
Denver
as
and
Stefan
decay.
would say.
Stefan is correct. Way ahead of it. A group of illegal immigrants staying at an encampment in Denver sent a list of demands to the mayor's desk. You'll do what we ask,
or else.
Or else what?
Exactly.
Or else.
Or else what?
Exactly.
What?
Right.
They said they will stay in city-funded shelters if their demands are met. One of them is better food. They're also looking for work permits. They are not receiving any kind of official housing or immigration document support. And then meanwhile, the Colorado House passing legislation to help illegal immigrants get a driver's license. So they're helping there, but these people have sent a demand and demands to the mayor's desk. We'll see what happens there. A groundbreaking exhibit is reopening its doors to visitors tomorrow. Governor Polis joined other leaders in Denver Tuesday to celebrate the newly redesigned Counterterrorism Education Learning Labs exhibit known as CEL. It addresses domestic and international security threats. AG Phil Weiser was there.
Hate speech, racism, anti-Semitism, bigotry. We need to stand against it. We need to make plain that hate against any of us must be treated as hate against all of us.
I agree, and I think they should include that huge flat screen with Kamani James and this video.
Zionists, they don't deserve to live comfortably, let alone Zionists don't deserve to live.
And former President Trump's show trial off today. Tuesday was TMI Tuesday as Stormy Daniels took the stand.
The testimony that we heard today has absolutely nothing to do with the indictment. The testimony was irrelevant. It was prejudicial. It was not probative. It has nothing to do with how something was filed and how reimbursement to Cohen and whether it was correctly entered in the books. Period. End of the story.
Judge Janine on Fox News Channel. A Gallup poll shows that only 38% of U.S. adults have a great deal or fair amount of confidence in Joe Biden to make the right decisions about the economy. Not surprising when you listen to Biden's chief economic advisor, Jared Bernstein. I'm sorry, his chief economic advisor, in case you haven't heard it, when asked about the government printing money and borrowing money.
Well, again, some of this stuff gets, some of the language that some of the language and concepts are just confusing. I mean, the government definitely prints money, and it definitely lends that money, which is why the government definitely prints money, and then it lends that money by selling bonds. Is that what they do? They sell bonds. Yeah, they sell bonds.
Man,
could you imagine that guy coming in and asking for a loan in a bank? And yet we let this guy advise the president of the United States.
I got to find out if he still has his job. There's no way. And I thought it wouldn't get worse than Kristi Noem this week. All right, hockey.
Tagliano zooms it ahead. Wood with speed. Wood drives in. Backhand. Score! Miles Wood, the hero in overtime.
Wow. The Avalanche over the Stars last night in Dallas in North Texas, game one of the Western Conference semifinals. The Nuggets back in action on Friday in Minneapolis against the T-Wolves. They're down 2-0, and Jamal Murray will not miss any games. He was fined $100,000 for throwing the towel, and the heating pad didn't have a cord on it or a cable like the ones we used to have when we were younger. The Rockies lose to the Giants 5-0. Game 2 of the series tonight at 6:40. 39 in Arvada, 41 in Greenwood Village, and 43 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue on Wacky Wednesday. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
The 710 5-day forecast, a freeze watch is in effect tonight through Wednesday morning. It'll be partly cloudy, brisk today and cool. Highs will be 55 to 60. There'll be a chance for a few isolated showers late today. Strong west winds. Windy tonight, cool, low to mid-30s, near freezing temperatures. Wednesday will be partly cloudy, breezy, a high near 60. Wednesday night, Thursday, and Friday, a chance of showers and a few thunderstorms and cool and unsettled. Meteorologist Don Day, 710 KNUS.
All right, Kristi Noem's disastrous press tour. Just stop it. Not only did she do Face the Nation, which we detailed the other day, it continues. She did 3 shows yesterday, and it got worse and worse, finishing with Varney and her essentially almost like walking off the set. She basically told him to stop it. We'll get to that in a second. Here she is on Newsmax. Newsmax. This is not MSNBC. Newsmax telling her she's done.
I agree with you there. But going back to what you said a moment ago, maybe not lying to the American people. And I think this is important to talk about because the book's called No Going Back, The Truth on What's Wrong with Politics. And I think part of the problem with politics today is that politicians aren't honest with the American people. So if you asked me a month ago, who's at the top of the list to run with Donald Trump, I would have said your name. If you asked me that same question this morning, I don't even think you're on the list.
Really?
So my question for you, yes, really, and it's because of things that have come out in this book, like your claims that you met Kim Jong-un, and then over the last week, I've
been to the DMZ. I've been to area. What I've said
is that did you stare down Kim Jong-un? Let me, Governor, 1 second. I will give you an opportunity to respond. I just want to get this out there. So here's the quote from the book. You say that I remember when I met North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un, I'm sure he underestimated me, having no clue about my experience staring down little tyrants. Governor, that never happened.
What I have said in the book is that when I became aware of the content that we had, it changed. And that's the way that it is. So I should not have put that anecdote in the book.
That I'm not going to talk about my meetings.
Indicates that it happened,
I'm
right?
not going to talk about my conversations with world leaders. I've been involved in policy for 30 years. For 30 years, I've been traveling the world, talking to world leaders. And that is a conversation that I'm not going to have in this book. So I've answered that in interviews already. I've been very forthright. And I think that a typical politician wouldn't be that honest. As soon as it became to my attention, I asked for the content to be changed, and it has been.
Governor, I'm not asking you about the details of this alleged meeting. I'm asking if the meeting actually happened. I don't think it did. And I think if it did, you'd be able to confirm for me that, yes, it did. And here's when it happened. It happened, say, at such and such a date or a month, or you don't have to be specific.
I'm not going to talk about my conversations.
You're going to
with world
continue
leaders.
to have to answer this question then.
I don't think so, because the average American citizen is more worried about the border. They're more worried about what we see in a White House and a president that since January has gone out there and misled the American people over 150 times, and nobody pushes him on what he says, that he was imprisoned with Nelson Mandela, that he drove an 18-wheeler, that his uncle was eaten by cannibals, that he started the civil rights movement. There is a hypocrisy in the media today. And I would like to see that the American people know and recognize the difference, that they want leaders who actually will go forward and give them a way that they can elect people who want to represent them and fight for them.
Governor, that's a very good point. And I'm not deliberately trying to be adversarial. Donald Trump winning in November is very important.
Yes, it is.
And I think that whoever he chooses to be his running mate, and again, I think at one point you were at the top of that list, but you're going to get questions a lot more difficult than that.
The thing that's very interesting to me is the only person who will decide is Donald Trump. He will decide, and he knows that I think he should pick the person that will help him win. That is my one parameter. When he was in the White House, I was on offense every day. I got to solve problems for the people of South Dakota. I got to, think out of the box and be innovative. Now with Joe Biden in the White House, all I am is on defense. So I will tell you that the one thing that President Trump knows for a fact is that I want him to win, and that I want him to pick the person that will help him win, because America needs him in the White House.
You seem surprised when Rob said that he didn't see you on the short list anymore. Are you still on that short list? Have you talked to him about being his vice president?
I talked to President Trump a lot. I talked to him a lot, and I think the world of him, and he knows that, and I've always supported him.
I mean, she's floundering on the national stage. I know she's been kind of on the national stage before, but never at this level. And the book's purpose was to get her to that level, right? It becomes a reason.
Get her into the VP slot. That's what that book was for.
Yeah, exactly. And Politico did a deep dive on this, which was really interesting in their magazine over the weekend. Kristi Noem's team told her to nix the dog story 2 years ago. It would have violated the first rule of campaign memoirs: do no harm.
Yeah.
So she had a different team back then. This was an interesting analysis by Politico. Kristi Noem's story about killing her dog made headlines across America, but it wasn't news to people who worked with her on her first book, where the tale made it into a draft of the memoir before the publishing team nixed it. Then, as now, Noem wanted the story in because it showed a decisive person who was unwilling to be bound by namby-pamby niceties, while others on the team, which included agents, editors, and publicists at the Hatchet Book Group's Prestige 12 imprint, and a ghostwriter, saw it as a bad taste anecdote that would hurt her brand. The tale was ultimately cut, according to two people involved with the project. In other words, they produced a typical pre-campaign book where the first rule is to do no harm. Somewhat unusually for the genre, that book, 2022's Not My First Rodeo, Lessons from the Heartland, landed the South Dakota governor on the New York Times bestseller list, adding to the consensus that the Donald Trump devotee had a big future in GOP politics. What it didn't do, of course, was spark a week-long news cycle and a round of obituaries for the same political future by including a tale about Noem leading a 14-month-old wire-haired pointer named Cricket to the gravel pit and shooting him to death after he ruined a pheasant hunt and killed a neighbor's chickens. This time around, Noem had a different team in place, as well as a different imprint. Hatchet's conservative-leaning Center Street and the folks behind her new book, No Going Back, didn't get in the way of sharing memories about gunning down an ill-trained puppy. It's been a busy week for the communications team.
Yeah, and you can hear that she has been given these standard answers. One of the ones that I think we're going to hear again in one of the other clips that we have is where she talks about, I'm not going to discuss my conversations with world leaders.
Right. And nobody's asking her about that. It's the weirdest thing. I can't get my mind around it.
Yeah.
What is happening?
Yeah. I'm wondering, the team, how did they feel that was going to be an acceptable response to the question? Because they game planned this question. They knew it was coming. So they gave her this answer to put in her pocket, just like you do when you're on a debate stage, or just like you do when you do a press conference or in any other situation where you're interacting with the media. You have to prep for those questions. And that answer of, I don't discuss my conversations with world leaders, is asinine, because not a single person is asking you about the subject of the conversation. They just want to know if it happened. That's it. It's just, did it happen? It's not like the idea of, yes, I've talked to the FBI, but I can't tell you what's there. Good, but did you talk to the FBI? Well, I can't tell you who I talked to today. No. It's just a talk. I'm not curious about the conversation. I just want to know the who. That's it. And she can't even confirm the who. So as soon as she comes in and says, I don't discuss these conversations, and people press her on them, and she can't say, yes, I met him, we all have the answer. Because if she said, yes, I looked him in the eye and shook his hand, that would be her answer. So the fact she doesn't answer it is the answer.
And she already recorded the audio version of this. So everybody knows that she read this out loud and continued to allow this to be in there.
Yes.
So I cannot for the life of me figure out what's going on. And please, listeners, help me if I'm wrong here. I'm a rock rib conservative. I'm a MAGA loving conservative. I've invited Kristi Noem many times to the Western Conservative Summit to be a part of the work that we're doing. I can't figure out the strategy that's taking place here, where you take one of America's sacred cows, which is their love for their dogs, and you use the murder of that dog as an example of how she's decisive. Like, it might just, and I live on a ranch. I raise dogs to be sold for guardian livestock purposes. So we train them around chickens. We train them around goats. We have to have ongoing relationships with the people we sell the dogs to, where if it doesn't work out, we take it back. My wife takes this very, very seriously. I cannot for the life of me figure out what is going on. And it continues. Here she is on News Nation. By the way, she canceled on Gutfeld yesterday. Maybe finally she's getting the message that this isn't working.
Oh, that is awful. I get it. Just for a second, you talked about the idea of the sacred cows and not harming, animals, not harming the dogs. It brought me back to a conversation I had with a friend about the movie of the show Yellowstone. In one of the early episodes, Kevin Costner has a horse that comes up lame. Right. And he has to euthanize it. He has to shoot it.
In the first episode,
episode, And remember what he tells
gets
him.
In a car accident.
Yeah. And remember what he tells him. The best I can offer you is peace.
Right.
That's different.
That is
than
different.
what Kristi was offering.
Yep.
Totally
and I'll
different.
tell you, I know exactly what happened to Noem. We're going to get to that in another second. But here she is on News Nation, same day.
But clearly, if you're taking it out of the book, it's because it's untrue.
I've given you my answer. No, and that's not the answer. I would say that, this is something that I asked to have adjusted and have the content and that name removed. And that is truly what the action has been.
You said when you learned of it, you immediately took action. You recorded the whole book and the audiobook. You read this whole passage out loud. Why didn't you take it out then when you read the audiobook?
I've traveled for years. I've been involved in policy for almost 30 years. And so I've gone all across the world. I've met with world leaders.
So you didn't realize when you recorded the audiobook?
When it was brought to my attention, and I asked the publisher if they would remove the name, and they did.
Okay, but you didn't answer my question. When you you posted pictures and video of yourself recording the audiobook. When you recorded your own audiobook, you didn't notice
I'm
this
not going to
passage?
discuss about my meetings with world leaders.
I'm not asking you to. I'm asking you about recording the audiobook.
Did you want to talk about something else today?
No, I just wanted to know. I mean, we're just trying to get a straight answer from it. This has been.
Well, you did. And I took responsibility for it.
No,
she didn't. Not at all. In fact, if it was responsibility, she'd go, guys, look, this is actually, so there's different ways to handle each one of these situations. With the Kim Jong-un one, you go, guys, I got it wrong. And look, oftentimes I'm just reading things, and sometimes I don't think through all the details. And I'm a busy, and I'm a governor, and I'm reading this, and I'm giving speeches here. And look, I learned Donald Trump doesn't read his speeches when I was at the National Prayer Breakfast, and I watched him agree with the speech he was giving.
Oh, yeah.
So he'd go, family is essential to America. That's so true. It's so true. So
he does that routinely. If you listen to him, also if he runs across something that he thinks is new or novel, he then repeats it and talks about not many people know this, or few people are finding, or we're finding this out. All the time. All the time he is running through those speeches, and he's just discovering them. Anytime he makes
live
those sidebars,
as he's making them.
Yes, he's commenting on words that he just said. Yes.
Right, exactly. And people would go, okay. All right, Christy, we get it.
Sure.
Guys, I'm super busy. We made a mistake. This was stupid. I apologize. And thank God you got me on this before the book comes out. We're going to make the change. We're going to make the change to the audio and be more lighthearted about it.
Yeah.
But this bizarre jump to, I'm not going to talk about the conversations I'm having with people.
Yeah. Especially when the question was, you were recording the audiobook. Why did you not notice? And she's like, I'm not discussing the conversations I'm having with world leaders. Like, that's a great answer, but not to the question that was asked.
Right.
Not even in the same zip code.
So there's a funny little meme going around right now. My wife and I talk about it on Instagram, where the husband is like, it's really bizarre that you start your conversations with "honey, you're not listening."
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I always joke around and I say, yeah, my wife tells me I have two major flaws. One's not listening, and I don't know what the other one is. Yeah.
That's a good one. Right. Like, we get busy. Life gets crazy. And you're consumed with stuff. And when I'm doing show prep, I'm not listening that well. And she could have easily gotten out of this portion of the problem by just saying, I goofed.
Yeah.
I goofed, got caught on it. You guys are right. I'm wrong, and we're going to change. And I'm glad we're making that change. And guess what? Nobody's asking follow-up questions about the conversations you had with these world leaders.
No one's caring.
Like, oh, you got it. We're going to play probably one of the nails in the coffin that happened on Varney yesterday for her.
And I couldn't believe Varney was pushing so hard too.
Yeah, right.
It's like, wow, he's not normally like that. I mean, he's solid, but
I'll tell you why. Aggressive. I'll tell you why conservatives are pushing so hard on this.
Ooh,
they don't want her as VP pick anymore.
Oh, I
do not want this headache for the next 6 months.
Yeah, and
just time to move on. You want to have the conversation about her being Secretary of the Interior later. We can do that. But the next 6 months, I don't want this. Varney doesn't want it. Newsmax doesn't want it. Fox doesn't want it. So they are pushing her off.
Oh, that's interesting. I think you're right about that. That makes a hell of a lot of sense.
I want to talk to you about roll them out shelves. They're coming to the Hunt House here. We're getting them scheduled. They came out and already did all the measurements for us. What are roll them out shelves? All right. Ever dreamt of effortlessly transforming your home into a haven of organization and efficiency? It's roll them out shelves. Let me paint you a picture. Joyce and Brent Tolliver, they run roll them out shelves. It's a mother and son dynamic duo. They came in. It was like having my mom and my brother there. Great conversations. We were talking about faith, about family, about America. They share all the same values we have on this show and with you, the listeners out there. And they measured all of our kitchen and our laundry room shelves so that we can roll them out. Now, you may, like me, have some roll them out like shelves already, but they're not the same ones. These are what I have are builder grade. They're cheap. They're not great. These are really high quality shelves. And where you don't have shelves, they can install them. So our pantry, we don't have a big kitchen. We live in a ranch house, and it's probably made for like 3 people, and we're a family of 6. So everything's squished in there. And especially our food pantry, everything's kind of stacked on top of each other. With roll them out shelves, you can pull it all out. They'll install it for you. They measured. Everything's tailor made to fit your needs. Here's the best part. You don't have to break the bank for this type of transformation. For less than $1,000, you can embark on your very own home makeover journey with roll them out shelves. These shelves, built to last, crafted with sturdy Baltic birch, built right here in Colorado and backed by a lifetime guarantee. So what are you waiting for? Give Joyce and Brent, the dynamic duo behind roll them out shelves, a call today at 303 303-475-9601. That's 303-475-9601. Or visit their website at rollemoutshelves.com for your free in-home estimate. Trust me, folks, the process is a breeze. You'll never look back. And don't forget to tell them Jeff sent you. Go to rollemoutshelves.com. All right, here's Noam on Varney. I'm not getting the audio.
I'm not either. Where's the audio?
We'll have to get to that in a second.
Yeah, give me a sec to find that.
But Varney essentially really pushes her. So here's what I said the other day. And people have pulled Noam's audio.
Still think that you are in line to be Trump's vice president?
No, it's up to Donald Trump. He's the only person who will decide this. He's the only person who will decide. And I do speak to him.
May I ask what he said to you about being vice president?
I never tell anybody my personal conversations.
Did the dog story come up in your conversation with
Trump? I talk to President Trump all the time.
About the dog?
About a lot of things. And right now, I tell you what, he is being persecuted in a political witch hunt in this court case. So I'm proud of him about how tough he is and how well he is doing.
Did you bring up
the
dog?
Yes, enough, Stuart.
Did you
this
bring
interview
up the dog
is
with Trump?
ridiculous what you are doing right now.
I don't
so
think
you
so.
need to stop. It is.
Okay.
It is.
We'll
Let's
stop.
talk about some real topics that Americans care about.
I'm afraid we're out of time.
Oh, well, of course we are.
We do thank you for being with us. I know I pressed hard, but that's what people are talking about to this day.
Yeah.
Governor Noah, thanks for joining us.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it.
And she doesn't have
We'll
a
be
good
back
answer.
in just a moment.
She
with
doesn't
the
have a good
opening bell.
answer. So here's what I think actually happened that day. As someone who works with range animals, I'm going to tell you in just a second. Hold on, I got to talk to you about American financing.
No fair. Tease that. Fine.
Despite everything the Fed has been trying, we are still feeling the effects of inflation. Filling up your car, grocery shopping, home repairs, everything is more expensive, and most of you are paying these bills with a credit card. Credit card debt is at an all-time high. If you're a homeowner, there is a way out. You need to call my friends at American Financing. They put together a plan to pay off the high-interest credit card debt and create meaningful savings for you every month. They're saving people just like you an average of $854 a month. $854 a month and closing in as fast as 10 days. Don't wait. Get yourself into a better position. Call their salary-based mortgage consultants today. It costs nothing to get started. And if you want to start today, you can delay 2 mortgage payments, giving you greater savings up front. American Financing can help get that monkey off your back. American Financing, 303-695-7000. That's 303-695-7000. AmericanFinancing.net, NMLS 182334, consumeraccess.org. So here's what I've always said. I think what happened with Noam, ranch animals can some days be very frustrating, and they kill neighbors' chickens. They bite you on the hand. You can easily lose your cool. And there are days where you just got to put them in their pen and walk away because they're being difficult. When I heard this audio about Noam and her reading kind of what happened, she lost her cool that day. Bottom line, this is what I think happened.
Later that evening, my uncle, who was the general contractor building our house, called me and he said, "What got into you today?" "Nothing," I responded. "Why?" He said, "Well, the guy said you came barreling into the yard with your truck, you slammed the door, took a gun and a dog over the hill out of sight. They heard one shot, you came back without the dog. Then you grabbed the goat and headed back up over the hill. Then they heard another shot. You came back, slammed the pickup door again, went back. They heard another shot, and then you came back without the goat. They said they hurried back to work before you decided they were next."
I just don't get her finding that good. Her judgment in two ways. One, in what she did to the animals, losing her cool, not being able to walk away and assess the situation and make a decision. On the goat, and I said this before, as someone who raises boy goats, the goat was just being a boy goat. She literally shot him for just being a boy goat. Everything she describes is what they are. They like to roughhouse. They like to run their heads into stuff. When I go into our boy goats pasture, it's like WWE. It's WrestleMania time. My wife doesn't like it. She stays away from them. I love it. We have a fun time. The boys and I, and we have about 5 boy goats that are all in the same pen. It's the same thing every time. They're going to run their head into me. I'm going to push back. It is probably some of the best stress relief I have in my life right now is hanging out with those boy goats. And then to attract the girl goats, they urinate on their chins. That's what boy goats do. So they stink. They're terrible. They smell terrible. That's what attracted girls goat to them. But she basically shot the boy goat for being a boy goat. She lost her cool that day. And then to have the judgment to somehow believe this makes you look good. I don't get it, guys.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
And why this was the thing.
Go ahead.
Oh, this is why this is the one to say, this is how I'm making the tough decision. Gosh. There's so many other places I bet that she makes a tough decision that it isn't about this. And the hard part, I think, for most Americans is it's a tough decision and we're talking about the life of an animal.
Right.
There are all sorts of other tough decisions that you have as a parent, as a politician, as a governor that don't involve the death of an animal, especially at your hands. Right. This was just a really, really bad example to use, an incredibly bad example.
So here's what's happening. The conservative media is sending a very strong message to Donald Trump to make sure she is not the vice presidential candidate.
Yeah. You might be right. I hadn't thought about that. And I think you're right on this one. I think that this is a concerted push to, sully her name, to idea of to show that there is such a storm around her. Is this what you want? However, Trump seems to like the controversy. He seems to lean into that. Yeah. I'm not certain that this would be something that would push her away from him, because he may like the idea of that fighter. This may actually, at least in his mind, I'm not saying in his advisors. His advisors, I think, are actually going to be on your page. But in his mind, this could be, I'm going to take that person that she stood there and she took those questions. She did this and she, that could it possibly be something that endears her?
So bad on these. It's not like she pushed back and made it funny and entertaining. I think of Trump and Rosie O'Donnell, right?
Yeah.
Like, you said this about women. You said this. No, just Rosie O'Donnell.
Yeah.
Entire crowd laughs, right? America laughs at that point. She doesn't have that ability.
It's a good point. Yeah. Then maybe when he sees this, he's like, oh, I liked it, but not. Yeah. That she can't perform on that stage. Yeah, perhaps.
I don't want to have to answer for it for the next 6 months in the presidential race. You want to make her secretary? That's a different question. You want, but when you have Tulsi Gabbard out there, when you have Ben Carson out there, when you have J.D. Vance out there, when you have Ron DeSantis, which I don't think is likely, but when you have those potential picks out there, and really this,
I keep hearing the J.D. Vance thing. That one, to me, I don't think that one sales. I don't think that's. I think it could get it.
Ohio, but that would be the reason.
Yeah, but would it though? I'm not sure it would, because I'm not certain that he is beloved throughout all parts of Ohio. I'm not certain that's it. And the problem that I have with the idea of J.D. Vance is then you have two super, super wealthy dudes, and the idea of, hey, we're going to make sure that. And I'm not saying that Joe Biden is in any way, shape, or form and poverty or even middle class. But Kamala Harris was drawn, the government check of the DA. That's different than the level of cash and money that J.D. Vance is involved in.
I don't know how I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I'm just curious.
Text message here, 8422. She's done, and it's actually a good thing that she wrote the book to allow us to see what poor judgment she has. Interesting.
Good point.
8422. 5549. Judgment is a good word, and every choice has a consequence. She would be a horrible VP choice. Too impulsive and cruel. She would lose her job along with her credibility. All right, Chuck and Joe, we're going to get to you next. Guys, for those of you with a full head of hair, congratulations. Studies show that one of the most attractive physical features is a full head of hair. Want to know the least attractive and most aging? Well, it's hair loss. No amount of car, house, or success can make up for that thinning or balding, as it leaves the greatest lasting physical impression. It doesn't have to be that way. Advanced Hair has the quick one-day solution to your hair loss. No more expensive pills or special shampoos, just your very own natural hair guaranteed to grow. I've had family members get hair transplants. It changed their lives. They looked younger. They felt younger. They had more energy. Because when you look better, you have more energy. Advanced Hair has improved tens of thousands of lives, including top radio personalities across the country. Did I mention your own natural hair begins to regrow the very next day? For a free consultation, call 720-459-HAIR. That's 720-459-HAIR. And if you qualify, get $250 off and $250 free hair grafts. AdvancedHair.com. That's advancedhair.com. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in London, I'm Julia Chapman, and here are the top stories we're following. A Russian court has charged a U.S. soldier with theft causing significant damage. Gordon Black was detained in the eastern city of Vladivostok earlier this month after traveling there from South Korea, where he had been stationed. Prosecutors say Black had an argument with a 32-year-old woman he met in South Korea who accused him of stealing money from her. Black is the third U.S. citizen now in Russian custody. The Russian Foreign Ministry says the charges are purely domestic and not related to politics or espionage. Japan says relations with the U.S. are stronger than ever, despite President Biden describing the country as xenophobic last week. He made the comment at a presidential election fundraiser attended by a large number of Asian American voters. Chris Gilbert has more from Tokyo.
President Biden told attendees the reason the U.S. economy is so strong is because it welcomes diversity and immigrants, and the reason why Japan is struggling economically, as are China, India, and Russia, is because those countries do not want immigrants and are, in fact, xenophobic. Tokyo has responded, saying the comment is regrettable, but that ties with the U.S. remain strong.
And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Julia Chapman in London on Salem News Channel.
Great song, Bill. This is Friday.
so
This
good.
is a Friday song for me.
This is such a good song. Oh, there's something just about good feelings with this one.
Who's this artist again? This is
Zach Brown.
Zach Brown.
Yeah.
Is he the new Jimmy Buffett?
Interesting. Maybe I hadn't thought about it that way as far as that perspective, because Jimmy is there is something, because when Jimmy played, you could almost feel the sand in your toes. There was something magical that he could take you to places, and I hadn't thought about that connection. Zach does have some of that. I'm gonna have to go listen to some of the stuff and
because he did some crossover with Jimmy Buffett too.
Yeah, he has. But because this is one of those songs that does touch that emotion, that can take you to that emotional time, like right here. And there's so many emotions attached to this. You can see yourself in the song. You and your friends.
Yep.
You can hear the songs in the background. It's so good. I'll have to look at that, man. That's a good insight. I'll have to look at that.
So last Friday, my daughter was working at Dairy Queen in Elizabeth, and me and my boys were like, I had to go pick her up from work. She can't, she's not 16 yet. And so I got to go out and grab my daughter, and they go, well, can we come? If we come, will you get us some ice cream? I'm like, all right, we'll go get some ice cream. So Friday night, we were blaring that, driving down country roads, heading to the Elizabeth Dairy Queen. And then my daughter shared this picture someone took of her, and this thing went kind of viral on Twitter. She's at the drive-in serving somebody on horseback.
Oh, that's great. That's fantastic.
In Elizabeth. They had gone through the Dairy Queen in Elizabeth on their horseback, and she was handing them a blizzard, the thing where they turn it over.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. So it was a great picture of my daughter.
That is awesome. And on a horse. And the customer's on a horse. So, and of course, as a kid, you always do the thing where you walk up to the drive-thru and see if they'll serve you. You're standing there like a car, and they're like, you're stupid kids. This is the third time it's happened today. Go away. Yeah. So
let's go to Chuck in Tulsa. Chuck, we're talking Kristi Noem and disastrous interviews yesterday. Do you think she's done as Trump's potential VP pick?
She's done. This was her Kamala Harris moment. Lester Holt asked Kamala Harris, he says, you've never been to the border. And she finally says, well, I've never been to Europe either. And not only that, but there's a point that you probably missed is the Democrats would also go after the idea of the guns. They would say, see, like what these kind of people are, they just have to.
Oh, I didn't think about that. That's an interesting idea. Yeah.
Yeah, they have to go around, just kill willy-nilly, just everything. If they don't like it, they'll just use that gun to get rid of you. Yeah. So I think you're looking at that too.
Yeah, Chuck,
I thought about that, Chuck, man. That is really good insight because, of course, you being in Tulsa, us being here in Denver, we do have more exposure to the rural side of America. So we've had exposure to ranchers and farmers. And so this is kind of the norm. We don't have to agree with what Kristi did, but it's not something that's the first time we're exposed to this. However, you go somewhere else back east, you get into some of those areas in Boston, you get into New York. There are certain areas in New Hampshire, not the same thing. Doesn't play the same way.
In fact, Jon Stewart, Daily Show, made a whole joke about this yesterday, where they were like, "Oh yeah, this is just how we are on the ranch." What was that? That's just blowing up pigs.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly. That's a really good insight, Chuck. I thought of that, man.
I'll tell you what else too. Like for us too, it's the excuse me, it's the dogs. But see, when you have, if she had just presented the story, I had the dog put down, what I'm saying?
Right.
If it was that type of thing, you could probably slide past on it.
Yeah.
But I mean, not even that, but I mean, it was fact that the gun was brought in, and that sealed the deal, I think.
Yeah.
Chuck,
and that she didn't like it. Yeah, that's a good idea. And again, she would have done something like, this was a hard choice, but we had to make the deal, blah, blah, blah. Then now you're playing on the emotion because everybody that has been a long-term pet owner has had to make that choice about end-of-life care. And it is a hard choice. So now you tell the story as Chuck outlined in, we had to make this hard choice. We decided to euthanize the dog. You don't get into the details. Now, what is a negative becomes a positive. Now it's a shared moment. Oh, she gets it. She had to make the hard choices like I do. She's like me. I can vote for her. And that's how it works. That's how it works in politics. That's what you're trying to do. Hey,
Chuck,
thanks, Chuck.
Chuck, appreciate the call. Thanks so much. Hey, guys, I want to talk to you about Dan Caplis. Dan, I've known for years. We've been on the front lines together in many battles for policy here in the state of Colorado. He's pro-life. He's pro-family. He's pro-America. He shares all the same values that we have. If I was ever in a problem, in a pinch, Dan Caplis would be my first call. Dan suggests you should choose a lawyer who shares your values, because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everyone involved in the case. Think about how talented Dan is. Think about walking in with Dan's team. He is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. Dan Caplis Law is the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Caplis Law is a serious firm. For serious cases, Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. Have Dan on your team. He shares your values. He's a talented litigator. He's the right guy for you. If you need Dan's help, give him a call, 303-770-5551. That's 303-770-5551, or visit dancaplisLaw.com. That's Dan, CAPLISlaw.com. Let's go to Jim in Denver or Littleton. Jim, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. Yeah, Christy Nome's done. And, but I think the mentioning her replacements for VP, I think they got to go with a female.
I do too.
I think I've heard from on the back what they've talked about is they need to try to get back the white suburban woman, and a woman on the ticket will do that. Another white male. And I've actually heard from some people that said the Republican Party is really fixated on things like gender and stuff like that recently on who the pick is. But one person I haven't heard, which would be a great candidate, I've heard her on TV so many times. She's the lieutenant governor of Virginia, Winsome Sears. Yeah, I'm sure you guys have heard. She is outstanding. She checks all the boxes, and I've not heard her make a mistake when she's been on national TV.
She's a former Marine too. I guess once a Marine,
I
always
don't
a Marine.
understand why she's not being.
Now, I know she wasn't born in America. I think she was born in Jamaica. Can you be the vice president without being born in America? I don't know.
I think, isn't that Kamala Harris? Wasn't that part of the problem? Her parents were not, and they were bringing that up. And there was a debate at one time whether she was even born in America. I thought at one time they were talking about.
Yeah, because birth would grant you it automatically. Naturalized citizen, I'm not certain on VP.
I don't
because
know. I don't know if you guys.
Yeah, I don't know
if
at that
you
level.
know that, but that's something that was changed. That has not been set in stone anywhere, where if your parents were not citizens and you were born here, you became an automatic citizen. That was never set in stone. That was just a decision made by a judge at one time. My grandparents came here through Ellis Island. My father was born in America. He was not a citizen. He had to go through the citizen process in the 20s.
Really?
So to say that is not the case. A judge made that decision, and now we're following. It's not the case. It never was the case from early up until the 60s. If you were born here, you were not a citizen.
Jim, what do you think of
hang on a
Tulsi?
sec.
Go ahead.
Wait. Jim, the 14th Amendment disagrees with you. A person born or naturalized in the United States is subject to the jurisdictions thereof. So they become citizens. They are citizens, and it says, are citizens of the United States of where they reside. So 14th Amendment is what creates birthright citizenship. So that's historically where it comes from.
Well, there must have been a way of where they looked if the parents immigrated here, you were not necessarily. I think that was referring to actually slaves in that situation.
Yeah,
I think they were able. The government looked at it differently. I'm just telling you. I know
at that point, though, they also thought that the slaves were only 3/5 of a person, and there were all sorts of other things. And I will agree with you that during the early immigration, there were all sorts of things that were constitutionally questionable that we did to a variety of different ethnic groups, and they all seemed to get their turn. For a while it was the Italians, and then it became the Germans, and then for a while it was Chinese, and then it became Irish, and so they all kind of got a turn at it, though.
Jim, appreciate the call. Jim from Littleton, his line will be open 303-696-1971. We'll continue with your calls and texts. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Coming up in the 9 o'clock hour, Michael Fields is going to join us, president of Advanced Colorado Institute. If you remember yesterday, Lisa Frizzell joined us. She was part of this bipartisan coalition that put together a plan at the Capitol to provide property tax relief. Governor Polis was part of it. And some really kind of unique characters were part of it. People that I pretty much disagree on everything about. Scott Wasserman, Bell Policy Institute. And so I was suspicious. It You know, it's like when all the wrong people are showing up into something and claiming it's good, you're like, I don't know. Not that Lisa Frizzell and Barb Kirkmeyer aren't wrong by any means. I really like them. I like their leadership, but this just didn't sit with me the right way. And Michael Fields was making a lot of statements yesterday that this is the wrong deal. This property tax relief that's going to come from the Capitol is actually going to make things worse.
Yeah. Although, am I surprised that the legislature would try to solve a problem and make it worse? No, not at all. Nor am I blaming any of the friends of the show. I'm just saying that as a general rule, sometimes that's how the legislature functions. They try to fix stuff and things get worse. I'm just curious to find out what Michael has found out. I'm curious to learn what he has already learned.
And we asked Lisa Frizzell, representative from Castle Rock, about Michael Fields' statements. And she said, well, basically his math is off. So what are we going to hear from Michael Fields? And I trust Michael. I think he's one of the smartest guys in public policy in the state of Colorado. He's brilliant. He's led a lot of these efforts against Proposition HH. He's got likely 2 ballot initiatives that you're going to be voting on that will reduce possibly the sales tax and I think the property tax as well. So he's got a plan. And in many ways, because he's putting forth this plan, it forced Democrats to come to the table. But again, is it right? I don't know. It's complicated property tax math stuff. So we're going to get the lowdown from Michael Fields. By the way, this came through. Nancy Pelosi earning $1 million a day in the stock market. Think about that when you can't afford lunch today. All right, we'll continue. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
9 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. It is Wednesday, May 8th, 2024, and you have tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, center, and sometimes crazy. Thank God you woke up today in one of America's greatest cities, and we're gearing up for a whole nother hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. Grab another cup of coffee, Denver. Let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Coming up here in just a second, Michael Fields, he's the president of the Advanced Colorado Institute, responding to Lisa Frizzell. She was a guest on the show yesterday. Lisa's a representative from Castle Rock. She's part of a bipartisan coalition that put together a deal that will reduce property taxes by $1.3 billion in the first year. Just responding live, fresh off the presses, his editorial, or an editorial in the Gazette, lawmakers strike out on property tax relief. This is coming from the editorial board of the Gazette. And I think they agree with Michael Fields. This isn't the deal that is kind of being sold to us. So we'll get those details from him in just a second. Let's dive into the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Good morning, Jeff and Bill. 47 and sunny in Denver, expecting highs in the upper 50s today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, Denver testing emergency sirens this morning at 11 o'clock, so don't be alarmed. It is only a test. Illegal immigrants in Denver want better free food and jobs, or else they won't live in free housing with a roof over their heads.
Marge, I'm confused. Is this a happy ending or a sad ending?
One group has sent their demands to the mayor of Denver. Meanwhile, the state has made it easier for illegal immigrants to get a driver's license, and city council has approved a new overnight homeless shelter in Denver in decay. In all this craziness, Lorena Cantarovici from Maria Empanada showing love. She's donating $25,000 worth of empanadas to immigrants in the city.
We all are immigrants, and we have feelings, and we cry, and you remember those tough times, right?
Oh, God
Blake,
bless her. Yes.
Blake, I'd love to go to Paris, France this summer and go, I'm here, and my demands are tickets to the Olympics, wine, cheese, bread, just to walk into another country and be like, here's my list of demands. And
Here
we
I
don't
go.
just show them the door. Come on, man.
Come on. Incredible. Hey, by the way, have you ever been to Maria Empanadas?
No.
Oh,
is it good?
my God, it's outstanding.
Where is it?
Is. I think it's on, what is it, Broadway, I believe. Good stuff. Really good stuff. She's from Argentina. So, more
She
than
wants-
likely.
she wants to donate it. That's her issue, right?
Yeah. Hey, that's great. I love it. I'm going to wear a Biden t-shirt and walk in there and see if she feeds
Gets
me.
you free.
I better lose some weight. I don't know if she's going to believe that I need any food. So God bless her for doing that. All right, where am I? I have no idea. An Aurora man was shot last night while driving westbound on Mississippi between Moline and Nome. It left him with life-threatening injuries. There's no suspect information, and the police don't know if the victim and the suspect know each other. The legislative session ends today amid efforts to change how Tabor refunds work. The bill cleared the Senate Monday and was introduced to the House Tuesday, where it's up for a vote. It aims to lower the state income tax rate instead of refunding money when returns are filed. This year, taxpayers got $800 back. That would only happen again in years with huge sums of excess revenue. Former President Trump's show trial in recess. Judge Mersham was the host of TMI Tuesday with Stormy Daniels.
Look, any judge worth his or her salt, if you see something happening that is going to jeopardize the conviction, you yourself, sua sponte, on your own, will say, I'm going to stop the line of questioning right here. And then what you do is you call the parties to the bench. But Mershon, and, I heard one person say on Fox, oh, he's a really experienced judge. He's a fool. He's not an experienced judge the way he's doing this.
Judge Janine on Fox News Channel. She knows what's happening. Very few things better than overtime playoff hockey. The Avs in Dallas last night, game 1.
Tagliano zooms it ahead. Wood with speed. Wood drives in. Backhand. Score! Miles Wood, the hero in overtime.
Wow. The Avalanche over the Stars, and they lead it 1-0 as they start the Western Conference semifinals. All right, the Rockies lose to the Giants 5-0. Game 2 of the series tonight at 6:40 at Coors Field. The Nuggets Friday night, game 3. They're down 2-0 against the T-Wolves, and Jamal Murray was fined $100,000 for throwing a towel and a heating pad at the officials, but he will not miss any action. That's good. 44 in Lakewood, 43 in Lafayette, and 47 in Denver. Hey, make sure to keep it here with Jeff and Bill this hour, or
else.
Or else what?
Exactly.
Or else.
Or else what?
Exactly.
What?
Right.
Well, again, some of this stuff gets some of the language that some of the language in context.
Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS. Have a great day.
And it definitely.
The 7-10 5-day forecast, a freeze watch is in effect tonight through Wednesday morning. It'll be partly cloudy, brisk today and cool. Highs will be 55 to 60. There'll be a chance for a few isolated showers late today. Strong west winds. Windy tonight, cool, low to mid-30s, near freezing temperatures. Wednesday will be partly cloudy, breezy, a high near 60. Wednesday night, Thursday, and Friday, a chance of showers and a few thunderstorms and cool and unsettled. Meteorologist Don Day, 710 KNUS.
All right. Yesterday, Lisa Frizzell was on our show touting a deal that Polish lawmakers and others struck to reduce property taxes by $1.3 billion in the first year. It seems complicated. And good friend of the show, Michael Fields, who's the president of Advanced Colorado Institute, is not a fan. And in fact, the Gazette editorial board just coming out today, lawmakers strike out on property tax relief. Michael, thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Thanks for having me on.
So why don't you like the deal?
Yeah, I mean, I wish it was the property tax relief we were looking for. It just isn't. And I think, it has a lot to do with the fact that we just saw this 25, 30, in some places 40% increase in property taxes this last year, and people want relief. And they said, what can we do to make sure that isn't as big, that it doesn't happen in the future? And legislators, came together and basically didn't do anything about that huge increase that we just saw. And in fact, allowed an even bigger increase in future years. So I think the key that's missing as they're talking about this is just the effective rate, how much you're going to pay on your home, goes up under this bill, not down.
So why would they be touting that it's a property tax relief? They're saying $1.3 billion in the first year is going to be saved.
Yeah, and they're saying that basically because they're saying, well, we could charge you even more money, and we're not going to do that. We're going to slow that increase, and therefore we're going to call it a cut. And so Lisa Frizzell was on a different radio show yesterday and said, what about this ginormous increase that just happened? Is it going to do anything about that? And she said, no, it's something for the future. It's slowing future increase. And that host, so that's one of my least favorite political tricks,
right?
Because it is not a real cut. Talking about savings, thinking about this, and I'm like, it's like Joe Biden saying, well, I could tax you at 100%, but I'm going to tax you at 40% and call it a tax cut. That's what's going on here. I think people want real relief. Our ballot measures that we have coming forward this year would actually cut the rate and would actually cap how much it can go up in the future. And so there are a couple good things in this bill. It does slowly lower the commercial property tax rate. But again, it's trusting the next governor that they're going to follow through with it. It's not permanent until the next governor is in office. I hope it's somebody that's great, but I'm not confident it will be. This stuff can get reversed at any time.
It's sort of like when Mayor Mike Johnston was saying, well, we are going to have to spend $180 million on illegal immigrants, but I was able to cut it down to 90 million. I saved it. Right. We called this girl math, which is not derogatory towards girls. It's a trend online where girls kind of point out, like, I didn't shop today, so I'm going to spend double tomorrow, and it's the same amount of money each day. You're like, no, it's not. So Lisa Frizzell is obviously, she's no liberal. Why would, and neither is Barb Kirkmeyer. So they spent a lot of time negotiating on this. The article in Colorado Politics talks about days and days and hours trying to negotiate this deal. Michael Fields, is it better to have something than nothing?
I think when it comes to this bill, I still think the something is that the rate goes up from where it is today, which I don't think is a good thing. I think it's definitely better to have some commercial relief. I mean, we have some of the highest business property taxes in the country, so I think that's a good thing. I just think when it comes to, is this the solution? It is absolutely not, which is why we're still moving forward with our ballot measures to cut and cap property taxes. But again, there are a few good things in here, but I think people need to know your rate is still going up. Not only because your value is going up, the actual rate, the effective rate we're paying right now is 6.3. It's going to go up to 6.8. What they're saying is at least it's not going to go up to 7.15, which is the max that they can do. And so, I do think there's some legislators that like to be at the table, that like to negotiate. But if you look at the bill sponsors on the other side of the aisle, Senator Hansen, Representative Kennedy, these are people that have gone after Tabor every single year.
Right.
They've gotten us into this property tax mess. They're putting huge loopholes into this bill. So I think, the trust is going a little bit further than it should. And again, I just agree with that editorial board, editorial from the Gazette that says, that this is really more or less a strikeout, and we still need these measures moving forward in November.
Yeah, when I saw some of the players' names listed there, primarily Scott Wasserman, who runs the Bell Policy Center, I feel like his mission in life is to take down Tabor. And I've kind of joked he's got to be the most frustrated Democrat in Colorado or liberal in Colorado, because this is the one thing he can't do. They can go after guns, they can go after pretty much anything that conservatives hold sacred except for Tabor. He's never been able to successfully defeat it. He's tried year after year with ballot initiative after ballot initiative. And then he comes along and all of a sudden really likes this negotiated plan. And I'm like, what? Something doesn't smell right. It doesn't. I think Bill Armstrong used to say, I don't know what's wrong, but it smells bad. And that's just kind of where we feel on this.
Well, and these are people who want to maximize revenue, right? As much as you can keep and take is what they want to do. They understand that it is an issue. And I do think they wanted to come out and say, look, this is what we're doing. We're saving this, we're slowing the future increase. That's good enough. And it's not for the average person. If you look at polling, property taxes right now are the number one issue for voters in Colorado. More than anything else, property taxes are on people's mind because of that huge spike that we saw. And again, even the bill sponsors are saying it does nothing to address that spike. And that's why we think we need to come in, cut the rate down and say, you know what, that 30%, 25% increase, that should only be 20%. We should have 20% off of that. It should only be 10%. Government shouldn't be growing faster than our wages. And that is the line. If you talk to anybody, if you're getting signatures for these measures, if you say, do you think government should be growing faster than your wages? People say no, they shouldn't. And so that's why the cap is important. It's also why we need to cut these taxes.
Let's talk about your ballot initiatives. I believe you have two that you're trying to get on. Yeah. Can you talk about both those?
Yeah, so Initiative 50 is the first one. That's already on the ballot. We got signatures last year while they were trying to do Proposition HH. We got signatures, and that is a 4% annual cap on how much property taxes can go up statewide. So this sets that cap and says, you know what, if our wages are only going up 3%, we need the government to be around that number, not 25, 30%. So that's a simple measure that just caps the future increase in property tax revenue. The second measure is Initiative 108, and that's what we're getting signatures on right now, and that would cut the rate. So as you said, the effective rate right now is 6.3%. We're cut that down to 5.7. It's a true cut. And on the commercial side, instead of 29%, it's 24%. And basically the state backfills these localities that would have less revenue for it. Your local fire and law enforcement and water and schools are more popular than what's going on at the state. And so the state backfills that. And we make sure that we protect education funding because that's something that's in the Constitution. So it is a straight cut on one hand. The other ballot measure is a cap at 4% in property taxes.
And I think one of the critiques that Lisa Frizzell, state rep from Castle Rock, brought up yesterday is that this backfilling, though, is not a good thing. It's you're going to have some counties that are responsible and some that aren't. And so let's take Boulder, for instance. They don't really care to cut, so they'll just get revenue from the state to backfill the cuts that are going to take place. What's your response to that?
Yeah, I just think, again, you look at what people trust more, and it's their local government. I would rather the sheriff's department in Douglas County getting the money than the state doing all these crazy things they're doing at that level. Ultimately, it's going to be up to the state to decide. If you pass a measure like this, the cuts are something that are permanent that they can't change. But if they want to backfill halfway or to a different degree, that's ultimately up to them. But what we're saying is we know, and we've pulled this, that people care about their local government much more than the state government. That's who we think should have the money. And ultimately, it's going to be up to voters to make that decision. But I think what you see what's happening at the state level and then what's happening at the local level, I'll take the local level all day.
What will happen to this deal that was struck, this bipartisan deal? It's supposed to reduce property taxes by $1.3 billion in the first year. If your ballot initiative passes in the fall, how do these work together?
Ours would supersede it. We do something called a repeal and reenact because these same legislators, Senator Hansen, Representative Kennedy, tried to undermine one of our measures in the past. And it was a property tax relief for both businesses and homes. And they rewrote our ballot language. And so what we started doing was saying, you know what, when we pass this, it's going to repeal the section that's there and replace it with what we have. And so you get much more relief than what is happening in this bill. Ours would supersede theirs, which I think is a good thing because it's more relief, it's better relief. And, the legislature, once those cuts are in place and once this cap is on, they cannot reverse that except for through a vote of the people.
And do you think this will pass this November? Do you think both of them will pass? What is your internal polling telling you?
I'm hoping they are. I mean, they're up right now. Obviously, there's going to be a big campaign against them. We think with property taxes being the number one issue, with the simplicity of ours are 2 pages. They're not 83 pages. It's not 25 pages. 2 pages, very simple. I think that we pass them in November, and I think that's what these legislators are worried about, that they're not going to get as much revenue in the future. But we have to think about what it means for seniors, for people on fixed income, for families across the state. And so, yeah, I think our polling looks good right now, and we're going to have to run a good campaign because there's going to be a lot of arrows thrown at us.
Talking with Michael Fields, he is the president of Advanced Colorado Institute, and he's pushing back a little bit on what Lisa Frizzell and Barb Kirkmeyer and Polis and the Democrat leadership down at the House and Senate have pulled together. I mean, Michael, Lisa, Barbara. Do you think their intentions were good on this? Do you fault them for trying to make this deal?
I think their intentions are very good overall. I know them well. I think they're great representatives. I've supported them in the past. I just don't think this goes far enough. I think they could have gotten a much better deal for Coloradans, but I think they felt this is the most they could get. I think that we all need to be honest about what's actually in it, and the rates actually go up, and it's not compared to what they could be doing in the future. I think that's an important piece of this discussion. But, ultimately, we look at this as this isn't going to stop us from going to the ballot, trying to provide real property tax relief. And we hope that these legislators, get on board and support one or both of the measures that we're pushing.
Now, I believe you have another ballot measure that has to do with crime. Can you talk about that?
We have multiple ballot measures. So we have 4 ballot measures.
Do you have 4?
Right
so we talked 2. So tell us about the other 2.
Yeah, so we have 2 that have to do with crime. One is a law enforcement, getting more money to law enforcement, $350 million to local law enforcement. Another thing that's popular, people are worried about crime across the state, want to equip, give better, salaries, training to law enforcement. That's a good one. The other one is truth in sentencing, which I think we talked about, which basically makes sure that violent criminals, class 2 felons stay in jail at least 85% of their sentence. Right now, they're getting out 43% of their sentence. Polis's parole board letting people out at 43% of their sentence when they're dangerous criminals. So both those measures polling very high. I think that they'll pass. The last one that we're doing right now is a school choice in the Constitution measure. You saw this last session, liberal legislators going after charter schools, going after school choice. It's just going to get worse because all these are in statute. They're not in the Constitution. So what we want to do is put school choice in the Constitution, protect it more. And that's another one that's very popular.
If the people want to be involved, they can go to advancecolorado.org, advancecolorado.org. I think Advance Colorado is one of the most innovative, successful, brilliant, tactitional, if that's even a word, think tanks out there advancing public policy. Look, if you're a conservative in Colorado, it's very difficult right now. These guys have found a way forward. advancecolorado.com. That's Michael Fields, president at Advance Colorado. Bill, I think we had a question from a caller.
Yeah, a caller, and I want to give voice to their statement. It's outside of what we're doing, but what they're asking you, Michael, is if you would please consider in the future putting together some sort of an initiative that would mandate regular audits that would be made public of our government institutions. And the reason that the person is saying, he knows it's a heavy lift. It's hard to get across the line, but they're so worried about transparency, and they feel that the only way we're going to get some true spending transparency is to have something like a regular audit. But do you even think that would be feasible?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I mean, we do a lot of our measures and look, what is conservative policy, transparency policy that can pass? And I don't know if that's something that, the ballot language that the title board gives, if it would pass. But I do think there's an audit problem in Colorado that they have a backlog. And I remember this back, for years, that they have a backlog of, 1, 2, 3 years before they can even get to anything. How do you hold that accountable when legislators are changing all the time, when we don't have that information in real time? So I do think there should be a push to get that information, those audits done much quicker so we know what's going on in state government.
Oh, that'd be very smart because, again, Michael, Jeff, listener, imagine if you were having, I don't know, bounced checks, or you were making some bills, but when you went back and looked at your budget from the previous years, you had no record. You had no idea where you were spending your money or where it was going. There's no way you can fix your spending problem today if you don't know how you got there in the first place. So the idea that we continue to walk forward with all the money we're going to spend and we have no idea how we messed it up in the past, it's just, it explains a lot, though, honestly. It really does explain a lot. Thanks for your time, Michael.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. And $41 billion state budget, I think we can do a better job with it.
Michael Fields, president of Advance Colorado Institute. You can follow him online. And again, guys, this is one of the smartest guys in Colorado public policy to follow. And on X at Michael C.L. Fields. Michael C.L. Fields. By the way, just tell folks about your pops, too. He was a great theologian and pastor.
Yeah, he was a seminary professor for 30 years at Trinity in Chicago. And somebody I have a lot of respect for. He passed away a couple of years ago, but somebody who, was a big influence in my life and many people's lives, many pastors' lives across the country. So I appreciate you bringing him up, and I obviously miss him a lot.
Comes from a great legacy of bold Christian leadership, and Michael continues that in public policy here in the state of Colorado. Michael, thanks for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Thanks, Jeff and Bill. See ya.
Well, I'll post the editorial on my X account at Jeff Hunt if you'd like, but the editorial coming from the Gazette board, the lawmakers strike out on property tax relief on this deal that was put together. I appreciate Michael saying, look, Barb Kirkmeyer, Lisa Frizzell, good leaders. They just didn't get all that they could in this deal.
Yeah.
Our plan this November that you can vote on will get you where you need to be. So, thanks. They got some stuff. Let's take it a level further this November.
And I love that he came at it very rationally, saying, look at who they're fighting with. Look, this could be the best thing they could possibly get. He thinks they could have done more, but again, he wasn't in the meetings, and it gave them the grace to say they probably fought and got as much as they felt they could at this point, even as imperfect as it is. The one thing I love that Michael outlined, and this is why I was curious, and this is yesterday after a conversation with Lisa and then Michael's comments online yesterday, was how is it actually an increase in your property tax? And he explained very validly that it is the typical government ploy of cutting the increase. So what that means is
their savings.
Yes. So the increase, so the example would be, let's say the increase in your budget is going to be 10% next year. No one's getting a 10% raise, but still, we're going to play with this. You're getting 10% more in your budget next year, but we're going to have a cut. We're cutting it to only 5%. So now we're saving the money. Instead of the increase that we're going to have to spend next year, we're only spending 5% more. So we're saving 5%. No, we're not. we're spending 5% more instead of 10% more. That's how you and I do it. That is not how the government do it.
So you know where you should spend 5% more, especially this Sunday?
Where?
Mother's Day.
Yeah, you're right.
Beau Visage is where I'm going to be. Mom, turn down the radio. Mom, turn it down. You're going to be not surprised, but this is where I'm getting my mother her Mother's Day gift. Folks, Sunday is Mother's Day. If you're still looking for that special gift, I realize restaurant and flowers are always popular, but let's be honest. In today's world, many women lead a stressful life, juggling time between her job and family. So this Mother's Day, give her something she really needs, some time to herself, just to rest and relax. Buy her a few hours of pampering at Beau Visage Skincare and Spa. You can either get her one of their fabulous gift packages or one of their luxurious treatments like a relaxing massage, wonderful European facial. Folks, I've been to Beau Visage myself. My wife and I did a couples massage around Valentine's Day just to check it out. Great experience. I can promise you this place is top notch. It's professional, first class, and they do a terrific job at very competitive prices. For details, go to give them a call at 303-779-5002 or bvspa.com. That's 303-779-5002 or bvspa.com. This Mother's Day gift, give a gift that says you deserve to be treated like a queen. Call Beau Visage, 303-779-5002, bvspa.com. We'll continue with your calls and texts. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. This was breaking news yesterday. Judge indefinitely delays Trump's classified documents trial in Florida. U.S. Judge Cannon said there are too many pretrial issues to set a new trial date. Donald Trump's Florida trial for allegedly mishandling classified documents and obstructing government efforts to retrieve them has been pushed back indefinitely by U.S. District Judge Eileen Cannon, who ruled Thursday. This coming from the Washington Post, increasing the chance that the former president's ongoing New York criminal trial may be the only one to happen before the November election. The judge had originally set the Florida trial date for late May, but that seemed unlikely for months, with Cannon still needing to make decisions on a number of key legal issues before a jury can hear the case. At a scheduling hearing on March 1st, Trump lawyers pushed to start the classified documents trial after the presidential election, in which he was the presumptive Republican nominee. Prosecutors urged Cannon to pick a trial date in July. This is the key here. If Trump returns to the Oval Office, he could appoint an attorney general who's willing to drop the federal charges against him. In addition, Justice Department policy forbids the criminal prosecution of a sitting president. By the time, if Trump's elected, by the time this could go to court would be 4+ years from now, 4.5 years from now. I think this thing's done.
Yeah, and it might be. And not because Donald Trump had his day in court, but because a judge said, I can't do my job. Great. That's fan-freaking-tastic. That we're not going to have this adjudicated because the judge can't do her job.
Don't you still have like the Supreme Court case that's outstanding that's going to affect this and all that? So you would start the trial even with that outstanding?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, that happens in a large number of criminal court cases. That's like, the other day, Trump was asking for the Stormy Daniels thing to be paused because of an appeal of some sort or another. No, you can walk and chew gum at the same time. And there are dozens upon dozens of criminal defendants that have current appeals going on while they are involved in the case. And that happens all the time. We don't have to treat Trump like the special little boy he thinks he is. He can do this regularly. The issue for me, though, is that Judge Cannon says there are too many issues for us to deal with, and I can't possibly. She's basically saying, I can't do my job in time for us to actually have this court case.
Or for Trump to get a free and fair trial.
And free and fair trial. How, though? Because she can't get through the stuff. That's her job. Right. That's her job, to get through the pretrial motions and things. There is paperwork that Trump was supposed to have delivered at the end of last year. Still isn't in the record, in the case, in Florida. That's her fault. It's not Trump's fault, not Jack Smith's fault. Well, Trump's fault, yes, because he didn't. But she still hasn't gotten the papers. We're in May, and she doesn't. And she has paperwork that should have been filed by the end of 2023 and still not in the case. It's her fault.
So classified documents case may be held over. And if it is held over and Trump gets elected, this thing, I think, is done.
Well, he dismisses Jack Smith and it's done.
Right.
Because he's the prosecutor. So that's it. You're done.
This will be done. Another president, maybe after him, could bring it up, but that's going to be 4+ years afterwards. And is it going to continue on? So the only way, in my opinion, that at least, and I'm not an attorney, but this case seems to move forward, is if Biden wins.
Or Jack Smith moves to get Eileen Cannon removed, which would be an interesting political move, which he probably would have grounds for based on certain determinations and things that have happened in other rulings that she has made. He may have grounds. I'm not certain that if I was in his position that I would play that card. I don't think I would at this point. But again, the funny thing that I have in this is the conclusion that Trump should be able to have those documents. They're all his, and this is a BS court case. Because if we would just flip the political parties and we would flip the presidential candidate involved, if this was a Joe Biden issue and he was supposed to have had classified documents that he shouldn't have and didn't want to give them back to the government, I guarantee you that the people on the curvy couch in the morning and the other conservative outlets would be screaming that we need to get this trial through the court because what? The American people deserve to know. But in this case, no, It's okay. We don't need to know about this one.
I want to get to Joe and Arvada here in just a second, but I do want to talk to you about the Colorado Farm Bureau. Whether you pulled out your skis or snowmobiles this last winter, it was a great year for winter fun. But the snow means even more to Colorado ag. And I want you to know that our state's farmers and ranchers are doing their part to protect future water resources. You all know the saying in Colorado, whiskey's for drinking, water's for fighting. That's because water is gold in this state, and the people of Colorado agriculture continue improving the efficiency of their irrigation systems and adopting farming practices that help crops use less water to grow. They're planting drought-resistant varieties, and they're leading talks with state policymakers about how to preserve water supplies when we have good years like this last one. My friends at the Colorado Farm Bureau are leaders in water conservation and water policy. They understand how to balance water for crops and water for families, and they're doing more with less. You can do your part. I recommend you join and become a member today. Go to coloradofarmbureau.com. That's coloradofarmbureau.com to join those good folks over there. All right, let's go to Joe in Arvada. Joe, you've been very patient. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning.
Yeah, thanks for waiting.
Well, I originally called about the other case in Georgia. There's breaking news in that. But I want to say this. First, your guest was awesome. We need more referendums to get around this uber lefty government that we've elected. I don't know why we elected them, but it's the electorate is far left. Let's face it.
Joe, what do you think about Krista Kafer's argument, though, that these ballot initiatives, though, have brought us pot, psychedelic mushrooms, unrestricted abortion, and wolves?
I agree that they have to be revisited with other referendums to re-adjudicated in the public.
Right.
In other words, the wolves, that thing failed. Bring up a new referendum to slow down on that.
Or at least do something in the state capitol about it.
Well, yes. And now, I want to address something Billy just said. I'm going to come to the defense of Eileen Cannon. I'm sorry, Billy, you mischaracterized what's going on. Jack Smith has been caught not only telling a lie, but also the Justice Department mishandled the documents that they say that Trump mishandled. They are caught altering the actual documents. If you go and look at the discovery on this, you will find out that the government is going to end up in trouble because when they did their raid, they didn't do it properly. In fact, there's some question is they can't find the documents they actually took. So here's the thing. Forget it for a moment. I don't want to argue on that case because it's going to come out in the public that Jack Smith is a dirty prosecutor and
Actually, Joe, it won't.
They literally railroaded Donald Trump. Let me finish.
Hang on, Joe, hang on a sec with that. It will never come out because Eileen Cannon, Eileen Cannon has delayed the trial. We're never going to get those documents.
They haven't delayed the discovery for the. Listen to me. Listen to me. They haven't delayed the discovery for the prosecutor to bring forward why they altered the documents. Why did they mess with the evidence?
They didn't alter the documents.
Billy. They messed with the evidence.
They didn't.
Yes.
They didn't mess with or alter the evidence. No.
You're going to find it out. Just like you found out that Donald Trump is going to be elected president.
Joe,
Billy.
the issue is it was
Donald
the order.
Trump is going to be our president, Bill.
It is the order of documents and how they were cataloged, and it has to do with whether or not some of the pictures and things that were submitted.
It's tampering with evidence.
No,
what
it's
do you
not
not
tampering.
understand?
It's not tampering. It has to do with organization and order.
You're wrong.
Yes,
Bill,
that's fine.
You're wrong on this.
That's fine, Joe. We can see. We will see. Just I know, because you're right all the time. Just messed around.
Well, just about. 99%.
Yeah.
99.75%.
Because Kerry Lake's governor.
Joe, what would happen in Georgia? What was the breaking news happening in Georgia?
Trump is now won a appeal to the state appeal court to toss Fannie. Toss Fannie, honor Fannie. That is going to happen because there's other people that are being prosecuted. And you have to understand something. This was bogus from the beginning. And then it got muddled by a prosecutor that is invested in her boyfriend and all the money coming in and the vacations.
Hey,
and
Joe, question
all
for
of
you.
that
Joe,
stuff is
excuse
going
me.
to destroy that.
Excuse me.
They're going to find a new
Pardon me.
prosecutor, and the
Excuse
new
me.
prosecutor is
Take a
going to
breath.
say goodbye
Excuse
to
me.
this case.
Excuse me. Do you think the new prosecutor will? Do you think she's going to be tossed, and do you think the new prosecutor will decline to prosecute?
Yes.
Why?
It's simple. There was never any case in the beginning.
And that's how did they get the grand jury to indict then if there was no case?
Oh, if you can indict a ham sandwich.
But again,
remember?
you said there was no case, so they would have had to at least bring the information
Oh, yeah,
in
where
front
did
of a
they
grand
bring it?
jury. In front of a grand jury.
90% Fulton County, where they could find I remember the Democrat. Remember the woman
Okay.
that said that they were indicting President Trump?
So
she
from
was
now
a
on,
far left goon.
Okay, so from now on, the most important question on the jury form, obviously, is then your politics, because nobody on either side of the politics
you might want to see if she's
would be able to
leading
do it.
Antifa. Yeah, you might want to find out if she's a leader of Antifa.
That's different than
Right.
asking for politics. Can you explain to me, Joe, why Fani Willis's relationship with the man that she named as the lead prosecutor impacts or sullies the case and the facts in the file?
It's simple. When you pay somebody millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then you go on an escapade and vacations to various countries on the money that you paid him, you are invested in the case financially, not for truth.
Well, Joe, I appreciate that, but anybody who is paid to be a prosecutor would be invested in the case financially. Anybody that is deriving a paycheck from getting this case across the line, you would then say is corrupt. But that's okay. I understand the conclusions, and I appreciate you hanging on, and thanks for the call. And I hope you have a good birthday as well.
Joe, you got people texting in going, Joe, with exclamation points. So they appreciate it. Joe stuck around and delivered quite a call. Joe from Arvada, give us a call, 303-696-1971. Is your student ready to live out their faith and prepare for their future career? For over 100 years, Colorado Christian University has been educating the next generation of Christian leaders in a distinctly Christ-centered community. CCU is the premier interdenominational Christian university in the Rocky Mountain region. They offer a world-class education, ranking in the top 2% of all colleges nationwide for their rigorous academics. Students can choose from over 100 undergraduate programs ranging from psychology, entrepreneurship, theology, and engineering to their nationally acclaimed nursing and education programs. CCU cultivates real faith that equips students for all areas of life. Their small campus and Christ-centered community set CCU apart. At CCU, students are known by name, not by number. Professors are mentors, developing students spiritually and professionally. No matter what degree path they choose, your student will graduate from Colorado Christian University ready to impact the world with grace and truth. To learn more and apply, go to ccu.edu/apply. That's ccu.edu/apply. We'll continue. You're not going to want to miss this audio of how campaigns are utilizing social media influencers in this upcoming election. It's going to help inform you a little bit. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in London, I'm Julia Chapman, and here are the top stories we're following. A Russian court has charged a U.S. soldier with theft causing significant damage. Gordon Black was detained in the eastern city of Vladivostok earlier this month after traveling there from South Korea, where he had been stationed. Prosecutors say Black had an argument with a 32-year-old woman he met in South Korea who accused him of stealing money from her. Black is the third U.S. citizen now in Russian custody. The Russian Foreign Ministry says the charges are purely domestic and not related to politics or espionage. Black will remain in detention until at least the 2nd of July as he awaits trial. TikTok and its Chinese parent company ByteDance have sued the U.S. government over a new law that could potentially see the platform banned over security concerns. Tony Waterman has more.
In the lawsuit, TikTok says the reasons given to get ByteDance to sell its video platform or face a ban are speculative, and even if grounded, there would be less restrictive ways to address the issue. TikTok also said that national security concerns don't trump the First Amendment, and a ban would violate users' free speech. And this is an argument that has worked for the company in the past when it fended off bans from the Trump administration and some conservative states.
And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Julia Chapman in London on Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. A paid social media promoter kind of gave us some insight into how the Biden campaign is outreaching to them. I'll get to them in just a second. Men, you've heard a lot about how treating low testosterone can improve your sleep, your workouts, and your energy levels and more. This is important, guys, because oftentimes we talk about low testosterone with regards to ED, but as you get older, your testosterone goes down. It just does naturally, and that can affect everything that I just said, your energy levels, your workouts, your sleep. Why don't you just go visit RockyMountainMen'sClinic.com and take the low T quiz on their website. It's a simple 10-question quiz with yes or no answers. It only takes 2 minutes. Then schedule a consult with Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic. A Colorado licensed medical provider will review your results with you and discuss your options. Cost of the appointment's only $99, which includes a medical consult, AT, and PSA test. And if you sign up for testosterone treatment the day of your appointment, The visit is free. Rocky Mountain's Men's Clinic has served the Front Range of Colorado for nearly a decade and successfully treated tens of thousands of men. Give them a call today, 720-440-7900. That's 720-440-7900, or visit RockyMountainMen'sClinic.com. That's RockyMountainMen'sClinic.com. All right, listen to this audio from a social media promoter about how the Biden campaign outreach tour.
Joe Biden invited 70 influencers to view his State of the Union address in order to...
I was one of the 70 influencers that was invited, so let me spill the tea with you. So I got this message, I want to say on Monday night. So I got an email from an agency, and I saw the people that were CC'd on, and I didn't recognize any of the other email addresses that were CC'd onto this invite. So essentially they were like, we'd love to have you at this like watch party, blah, blah, blah. But they just said it was like a watch party for the State of Union address, blah, 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 whatever it's called. So I'm not super political on this platform for one reason. I care about work-life balance. I care about employee working, right? That typically...
We're running out of time here, but basically she says that they send emails and then they send prep documents for you to read and talk about. So what you're going to see on paid social media profiles this election, and this is honestly probably some of the best money that a campaign can spend because they have a high trust factor with their audiences, is essentially paid commentary. They're going to say what the campaign wants them to say. They're going to talk about the issues that the campaign wants them to talk about. And it's not just going to go to 70 media influencers. It's going to go to hundreds and thousands of thousands of media influencers that have audiences in the millions.
And now this is, I know this is kind of like breaking the fourth wall, and that a lot of people are going to get sad. But I really hate to do this. Kim Kardashian really doesn't like all that stuff. She's getting paid to do it. There. Sorry, I said it. That's how it works, guys. Okay. If they're on there telling you they use something, they love something, look at my new whatever it is, they're getting paid to do it. It's advertising. Yep. That's all exactly it is. Right. That's what they're getting paid to do. They're called influencers because they influence you to do something. That's it.
I'm going to influence you to visit American Financing. Everyone thinks mortgage rates are extremely high, but it's not entirely true. Mortgage rates are much lower than the average credit card rate of 22%, guys. Think about how much interest you're going to pay on that credit card if you're only paying the minimum payment every month. If you're a homeowner, a cash out refinance with American Financing can help you pay off that debt and lower your monthly expenses. They're saving homeowners just like you an average of $854 a month. Their salary-based mortgage consultants will show you how much you can save every month with no upfront fees and no obligation. Give them a call. Why wouldn't you? You may even close in as fast as 10 days and possibly delay 2 mortgage payments, giving you greater savings up front. Get the financial relief you need and stop living paycheck to paycheck. Call American Financing today. American Financing, 303-695-7000. That's 303-695-7000. AmericanFinancing.net. NMLS 182334, consumeraccess.org. So going back to that social media stuff, I've seen some of these guys are getting $200,000 from the Biden operation to be talking and promoting on it. Trump should be doing it too. But just know when you see those influencers talking political stuff, there's probably a check behind it.
During a political season, we are allowed to give everybody equal access to the airwaves here, and they pay us to get their voice out. Same thing. Same exact thing. Just, I understand. And I appreciate pulling the onion back, realizing the influencer getting paid. They're not doing this because they love the stuff. Stop it, guys. Stop paying attention to it.
So it's been a great show. If you missed any of it, we talked Boy Scouts. We talked with ADF. We talked with Michael Fields, all at 710knus.com. You've been listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.